77 degrees, a little overcast here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, but we're ready to go. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series 500 miler, our telecast tonight presented by Pennzoil. You can check out NASCAR.com for more coverage of tonight's AdvoCare 500 with 10 HD live race views, live chat, and live leaderboard. It's on the net at NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy. Our ESPN in-race reporter is a former winner at the Atlanta Motor Speedway who's got a lot of work for him tonight. He's starting back in 30th position, but he had his good luck charm warming up his race car before he climbed aboard.
That's great.
Keelan Harvick has become Kevin's thing here lately, getting his shot in the driver's seat before Dad climbs on board. Let's talk to Kevin.
We'll talk to his dad. Hey, Kevin, Dale Jarrett, the ESPN. You with us?
Or Dale.
Hey, Kevin, first, congratulations on a dominating performance there last night. Saw you totally committed to the bottom of the racetrack last night. Now, for what you saw in practice with this new tire, what you've seen here in the past, are you going to be able just to work that bottom, or we see you move around here tonight?
I don't plan on moving around unless I have to. You know, it's worked really good for us in the years past. So we got to overcome a little bit of qualifying track position here with our Jimmy John Chevy, but, you know, feel really good about having a car that's capable of probably winning the race, so we just got to take care of it.
Kevin, our mailbag question comes from one of your fans in St. Petersburg, Florida, and Tom asked, with running so well last night and starting in a similar position, what can you take from last night's win to apply to tonight's race?
I actually think there's a lot you can take from last night to this night. Just got to get in a rhythm, and hopefully we can do that quick and make up some track position here.
Hey, Kevin, we show the fans what we consider kind of be wild racing on these restarts. What does that look like from the driver's perspective?
You know, the restarts are crazy here because, you know, you have some guys that are really good on the restarts and guys that have their cars set up for long runs. The corners are from top to bottom able to race on, so you can make up a lot of ground if you hit it right, but if you time it wrong and get stuck on the top too long, you're going to lose a lot of track position.
All right, Kevin, thanks for talking with us. We'll be keeping an eye on you there tonight. Now, Andy's going to talk to your crew chief, Gil Martin.
Hey, Gil Martin, Andy Petrie in the booth. You got us?
Hey, Andy, I got you.
Hey, man, I didn't mean to wake you up there. Hey, is it harder or easier to call a race at a racetrack like Atlanta where the tire fall off in speed is so great?
I think both situations got its own set of circumstances. Both of them are equally as hard, I think, because as you well know, the races used to come out to where you come into the pits, you put a set of tires on, you had a second half advantage on everybody. We've been racing these gas mileage races so much that everybody...
Yeah, well, we appreciate you talking to us, Gil, and yeah, you're right. You've been doing that gas mileage thing for a while, so getting switched back over to this kind of racing is a little bit different. Good luck tonight.
Candy.
Gil Martin, Kevin Harvick, our ESPN in-race reporters. Let's check on some of the others' major stories in the field. Here's Dave.
Jeff Gordon's crew chief, Alan Gustafson, told me today, I can't afford to play chicken tonight. Now, that means taking the most risky strategies to try to get a win for his team because the teams he'd be playing chicken against are the guys with nothing to lose. That means taking a fast race car, which they have, and taking a more standard path to victory lane, which Alan believes they can do. Jamie Little?
Well, when it comes to making the chase, Brad Keselowski finds himself in a critical position, 4 points outside of 10th without a win. Now, this team isn't overly optimistic about their chances tonight. Brad told me that his car in practice was doing everything wrong. Watch the two as they try to race their way into the chase. Vince Welch.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. is still seeking his first win of the season, but 7th in points and not yet secure in the chase. Crew Chief Steve Letarte says, we won't be taking any chances or major gambles to get that first win tonight. Goal number 1, make the chase. And if we've got to play it a little safe to do it, that's what we'll do. Let's go to Mike Massaro.
Jimmy Johnson has been the championship leader since the beginning of April, 19 consecutive races. However, if he wants to be the #1 seed entering the chase, he needs to win at least one of the next 2 races. Just how important is it to this team to get one of those victories? Well, their press release this week may have said it all. The headline simply read, nothing else matters. Alan?
Mike, thanks. 1 lap away from the start tonight in Atlanta. Our high-definition onboard cameras tonight going to give you some great views with some important teams in that championship story. Brad Keselowski's got the Ford EcoBoost camera.
Running and everything looks good. No, I meant are you personally, not the vehicle. I'm ready to go.
He's all buckled in and ready. Casey Kane's got our Sunoco on board tonight. Greg Biffle has the Coke on board camera. And Joey Logano has the Shell Pennzoil on board. Jeff Gordon's got the Goodyear on board camera. Kevin Harvick with our Jimmy Johns on board. And Jimmy Johnson with our Chevy on board.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Remember, it's a long, long event, guys. 500 miles.
It is a long night in Atlanta. And our final onboard view tonight, Kurt Busch has our Sprint onboard camera. Our over-the-wall camera tonight being carried by Mark Hollywood Armstrong, changing front tires for David Ruderman in the 83. What are you looking for down on pit road tonight, Hollywood?
Well, guys, this is going to be a long race. It's hot, and we know that we got a lot of challenges out here with the issues with tires and also with no practice at nighttime. There's going to be a lot of adjustments on pit road and a lot of challenges on pit road tonight. You got guys trying to get into the chase and guys already in the chase, but that pressure could make or break a team tonight. Guys?
Hollywood, thanks. The Rockets' red glare. The pyrotechnics set off around some of the pre-race ceremonies on an overcast, humid night with the glow of the lights. That's the resulting scene. So a lap has been added by NASCAR because the spotters don't have a clear view from the top of the grandstand to help their driver be safe in a situation of a crash ahead of them and so on.
Yeah, you need everything your spotter can do for you here because you've got enough work as a driver just getting your car around here.
And you can see you can't hardly pick one of the cars out through that smoke. So let that clear out. Looks like the wind's awful calm tonight, though. It might take a lap or two.
It's moving through, but I've kind of been watching this float over from the center of the infield toward this way. They might need another lap, maybe two, before that fully clears out. So, track conditions have changed since these cars were last on the racetrack at just before 7 Eastern time yesterday. They ran the 300-mile NASCAR Nationwide Series race last night. Then today, a couple of spotty showers. Not a downpour by any means, but a couple of spotty showers. What are the drivers expecting when they turn them loose here in a minute?
Yeah, I think what you're going to see is whenever they first unloaded and were the first cars on the racetrack the other day, the speeds were extremely high. Now we have cooler temperatures, and even what that was, the rubber was off. As this rubber gets down, it actually makes this racetrack slicker and more difficult to attain speed. So I would imagine they're going to be hauling with some loose race cars because of the high speeds.
Yeah, and that's one thing that they don't do a lot of is practice in groups, and that's what they're going to start out in, obviously, and that makes the cars looser yet. So I think that's what you can expect, and a lot of teams kind of plan for that because they know the cars are going to be a little freer when the race starts.
We are coming to the start. Track measures 1.54 miles. To get the 500-mile distance, it takes 325 laps. And each and every one of those laps, these drivers will be fighting for control of these cars into these very fast corners. 25-year-old Ricky Stenhouse Jr., the two-time NASCAR Nationwide Series champ. Pole position for the first time in his NASCAR Sprint Cup Series career. Looking for his first top 10 finish, driving that 17. His Roush Fenway teammate Carl Edwards alongside as we come to the green flag.
They ganged up on Stenhouse on that start.
Montoya was ready, wasn't he?
He definitely was ready for the start. It's so difficult at times to start a race, especially like in Ricky Stenhouse's case, for the first time at a racetrack that has no grip even on the straightaway here. So I can tell that he was taking a little bit easy, but Montoya was certainly ready.
Stenhouse fighting with Jeff Gordon, 24 for third place. Dale Jr. 88, Matt Kenseth 20 right behind him now. And that 56 car, Martin Truex Jr. driving with the fractured bone in his right wrist and the brace on his hand.
Couldn't have come to a more difficult track with that type situation. And the reason that is because what we were talking about earlier, how much you work the steering wheel here. You go through the bumps, you're turning the car left, then you're turning it back right. Every driver will be going through that. And it's going to be a long night for all of these drivers, but especially Martin Truex Jr. Denny Hamlin, another that has an injury from that crash at Bristol last Saturday night.
But one thing I've seen over the years, I've seen drivers that are injured injured, seems like they perform at a higher level right after they're injured. And I don't know if it's a adrenaline thing or whatever it is, but I expect to see Truex run well tonight.
A little tight there. 17 Stenhouse, 56 Truex, 48 Johnson. That's 7th, 8th, and 9th.
And you try to work that bottom and make it work, and you can do that. But as you come up off the corner and in the gas, you can see you got to have all of the racetrack. And when you're racing your car side by side, it really makes it difficult.
Joey Logano, 22, one of those drivers under enormous pressure to make this chase. Truex also in that group. Little bobble there on the 56. Here comes Clint Bowyer to the inside of the 15.
Yeah, Bowyer and his team are in need of a win to get a bonus point heading into it. Know that they have a good racetrack next weekend at Richmond coming up for them. They're solid. They're in the chase, but they need a victory for momentum and for that bonus point.
What I love about this racetrack is if you've got a fast race car, you can drive it to the front. You can see right here that you can run anywhere on the racetrack. You can just take that momentum that you can gain, and you can pass cars, and there's so many places to race. I've seen Kevin Harvick's already moved up inside the top, 17. He's actually in 16th now.
18 Kyle Busch passing. Dale Jr. 88 for 5th place. Certainly Kyle one to keep an eye on tonight. And it's getting closer up front also. After Juan Pablo Montoya left in the opening laps, here comes Carl Edwards to challenge for the top spot.
Yeah, talking to Carl, he felt really good about his chances at a racetrack. He loves to race that.
Montoya, though, he's got something to prove here in the next few races.
Juan Pablo Montoya out of a ride at the end of this season. Announced here this weekend that Kyle Larson will be the pilot of that number 42 Target car for next season. The young phenom from California, showing his skills in the NASCAR Nationwide Series and in sprint cars and in midgets and in about anything else he can get in and drive this season.
Yeah, we see somebody else coming up to join this group at the front. It has something to prove, although he's proven a lot in his NASCAR career with 4 championships. But Jeff Gordon needs a solid run here, if not a victory. Obviously, victory would be the ultimate for him, but try to get himself situated in this chase.
Gordon just outside the top 10, but not eligible for one of those wild card spots because he doesn't have a win yet this season. Montoya and Edwards, the top 2 early at Atlanta. Just underway with tonight's NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Our telecast presented by Pennzoil. Juan Pablo Montoya holding off Carl Edwards and Jeff Gordon for now. Race fans, think you know something about speed? Buckle your seatbelt and play AT&T's Fastest Driver Challenge. Text FAST to 34763 and predict who'll have the fastest times in tonight's race. Brought to you by the nation's fastest 4G LTE network, AT&T. Rethink possible. Remember, competition caution coming up at lap 25 for these teams to get a look at the tires for the first time. Trends we're seeing in the early part of the race, guys hunting around, seeking where they might find the best grip for their car's handling, and a lot more people being dedicated to that bottom line than maybe we were expecting.
Well, we see it in 3 and 4, but I think we'll see Montoya as we follow the leader right here down into turn 1. He's moved up and running the top of the racetrack, as we'll see Carl Edwards, I believe, also go around the top part of the track in 1 and 2. That's pretty common at this racetrack. Now, Kevin Harvick, on the other hand, is a man that told us he was going to run the bottom. I say he dominated last night, and that's the way that he likes to go around here. He sets his car up that way and tries not to deviate from that.
Started 30th. Up to 16th, trying to take 15th away from Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Hey, this thing up for practice? No. The right rear quarter panel, Billy, make sure it's not caved in. I'll look again here. I didn't see none of my eyes. Got a little mark just in front of where the bumper connects. I think it's just paint. I don't see any dents, nothing loose.
Kevin must have ticked the wall.
Either that or maybe he got to get somebody else. Worried about a little body damage that maybe changed the handling of the car.
Well, for now, 30th to 15th for Harvick in the opening 17 laps. That's a pretty fast race car.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. That's good race cars and drivers that he's passing getting to that point. Certainly will get a little more difficult as he tries to move further forward, but a good start to the night.
could this be? Oh,
yeah. Oh, yeah, right there.
Yeah, he certainly did have some contact with that right rear corner. That's a critical part of the body of the race car because you rely so much on that part for side force.
Casey Mears in the 13 with the contact with Harvick.
And that did slow his progress down. He was passing a lot of cars till that happened right there. So car's still good, but not quite as good. Look at Jeff Gordon.
Whoa,
little slide job.
whoa.
How about that? Looked like one of the old sprint car moves, didn't it?
We saw a lot of that from him last week at Bristol, but about half the speed of what this is.
Somebody's racing outdoors, so slide jab.
Had someone questioning our use of the term of slide job, saying you can't slide a car on asphalt. You've driven these things before.
Well, they're wrong. I can tell them. I don't know who I'm disputing there, but I've had a lot of times that I was sliding around on asphalt, so I promise you it happens.
Matt Kenseth on the move, 3 wide.
Carl Edwards is now on the top side in both corners.
He'd been working that top side down in 3 and 4, trying to get around Montoya, but it really wasn't faster for him.
I think it's an issue with his car. I'm not sure his car is like he needs it. I think he almost has to go up there.
And riding with someone to really keep an eye on tonight, Joey Logano in this 22. Team's been on a roll lately, and boy, he's looked good in these opening laps.
Yeah, I think he learned something last night. I was kind of watching his line earlier in the race, and he was right down below that yellow line, just like Harvick was last night, every single lap. And Logano followed him for quite a bit, so he evidently was paying attention.
So that's Harvick's car in the NASCAR Nationwide Series race last night. Top of the screen, the 33. He was doing that. Most everybody else wasn't.
Yeah, and it sure paid off for him. And another reason I thought that this 22 would run good coming here was what he did at California. And even though California's a 2-mile track, we see Matt Kenseth get really loose right there. Logano was in a position to win that race in California, and it has a lot of similarities here. Matter of fact, it's the only racing surface, asphalt surface, that's older than this surface right here. It was done in 96. This was redone in 97, and a lot of similarities, and I think Logano will have a good, solid night and get himself situated even more so in that top 10.
Remember that race back in March? It was Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin, the whole last lap thing. Tony Stewart involved there that turned into name-calling and pushing and shoving after the race. And for Denny Hamlin, turned into him injuring his back in that very hard crash.
I tell you, it's heating up for the lead, though. You see 5 cars in the shot right there. Logano's going to be the one that's going to pounce first.
Started 11th, up to 2nd. Waiting on the competition caution. Somewhere in or after the 25th lap. Remember, NASCAR usually likes to let a lot of the lead lap cars go through the start-finish line to lock in the scoring before they put the yellow out.
And this is what Carl Edwards couldn't do. He ran up to Montoya a couple of different times, but he couldn't make that bottom work. Logano's got the lead.
Logano's best finish here has only been 18th, so he's looking good tonight.
Just a couple of weeks ago at the big, fast Michigan International Speedway, Joey Logano drove to victory lane, vaulted himself back into contention for a place in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Second win tonight would not only solidify him in the top 10 in points further, but pretty much guarantee him one of those wild card spots if something really goes wrong at Richmond next Saturday.
And a young man that came in with a lot of fanfare to this sport about how great he was going to be, and we're seeing all of that talk and coming to fruition now that he is a legitimate contender as the caution has come out now.
Just our frame of reference, too. We look at the last lap time for Joey Logano was 32:21. That was the fastest on the racetrack. The fastest lap of the race was 29:35 by Montoya, so you can see just how much tires mean here.
So first yellow flag, again called by NASCAR to allow teams to get a look at these tires. This new tire and how it's done in its first 25 laps under full speed racing competition, plus with the changed track conditions from yesterday when these cars were last on the speedway.
Yeah, I talked to some crew chiefs, and they feel good about the tire, but they always kind of hold their breath here at Atlanta because this is a tough racetrack on those tires, and they're lucky or feel good that they've got this 25 lap caution flag to kind of take a look at things.
And while at a lot of other tracks like Michigan and so on, the caution and the whole field coming to pit road brings about, okay, what are we going to do, this, that, or the other thing? That's not even a question tonight.
No, it makes it really easy for the crew chief because he's just going to say, okay, 4 tires, and really leaves it up to the pit crews to execute.
Yeah, but anybody that's up towards the front that's pitting towards the turn 4 side, they'll have to be careful because the whole field's going to pit here. And you have to be careful. We see a lot of contact on pit road here normally.
First round of stops. Dave?
Jeff Gordon will pit from third. You'll see his car in the upper left there. A little bit too tight. They'll pull a spring rubber from the left rear. Up 1.5 rounds on the track bar. Sunoco Fuel. Jamie?
Carl Edwards been running the high line in the opening laps here, saying he's a little bit tight, wants a track bar adjustment, air pressure, 4 tires, and they'll fill him up with Sunoco Fuel. Mike?
Juan Pablo Montoya saying toward the end of the run, he's losing the rear. They'll remove some air from the right rear tire. He's away after 4 tire change, Dave.
Joey Logano has been rock solid, but needs a little rear grip, so they're making an air pressure adjustment, and that's all on the 22. Montoya.
Yeah, Logano's track position is what's going to get adjusted most on that round of stops, Vince.
Yeah, 5 spots.
And Brad Keselowski up into the top 10. So Montoya regains the lead. Josh Wise, the free pass under the caution. Back for the restart to Atlanta. Sunset at 8:03 local time in just a little bit. As the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series gets ready to go back onto the green here at Atlanta. Telecast tonight presented by Pennzoil. Juan Pablo Montoya back in the lead after the first round of pit stops. Joey Logano first to 6th for the restart. And we've got 41 of the 43 starters on the lead lap as we get ready to go. Last night's nationwide race, Sky on the first position outside row had a lot of trouble getting going. That's Jeff Gordon right now.
Yeah, it's the worst position you can be in, spinning the tires here. The good thing is they have new tires on these cars on every pit stop. They're not limited.
He had trouble. And there's contact back in the pack. Smoke. Kasey Kahne. Damage on the 5 car.
Yeah, probably get down at the bottom. NASCAR screaming.
Well, might have gotten the radiator on that 5.
Yeah, it's got big problems. That's a terrible break for Kasey.
Just 2 things you can always count on: contact on pit road at this place and on the restarts. You just can't get going.
I mean, it's hard to tell on TV. It looks like it's just tire rubs and stuff.
I think it's
coming at us.
Might be an oil cooler.
We need 4 tires here. Get it cleared. Get the fenders cleared off of it.
Getting started. You see Kasey Kahne, I think it's part of an accordion effect. See, everybody was kind of stacking up behind. Yeah, that right there instantly, as soon as he hit the back of that 48.
Wow, Jeff Burton and Mark Martin, 31 and 14, picking up some damage there too.
I think some even further back than that. Kenseth gets in the back of Jeff, and everybody has to check up.
That's 3 Hendrick cars making contact, right? Jimmy Johnson into the back of Dale Jr. and Kasey Kahne into the back of Jimmy Johnson because the 4th Hendrick car on the outside of the front row didn't get going.
It's just so hard. We talked about this last night, again tonight, that there's just no grip on that front straightaway. And the worst position is the driver that's in that 2nd spot, trying to anticipate and get these cars up to speed, and especially with these Cup cars that have so much more horsepower. Dave, how about this 5? What kind of damage they have?
They're saying radiator to oil cooler, DJ. They are going back to the garage. You see the crew pushing the car right now. Their pit stall actually wasn't that far from the garage, so it was an easy, quick decision.
Well, Kasey Kahne talked about people on the bubble. Kahne came into this night 8th in the championship and only 20 points ahead of that 11th place cut line. The good news for Kasey, he does have a couple of wins, but the bad news is that pressure, that bubble of pressure, builds even more when you have an early problem on a night like this.
Yeah, and it's going to affect the rest of these bubble guys too, because if he falls out of the top 10, it's really going to shuffle things up because he has the 2 wins.
Mike?
And you can see Jimmy Johnson, the 48 team, going to work on that car. A little bit of damage on the nose, a little bit of damage on the rear, the right rear. They're trying to fix that right now. A lot of effort, though, being placed on the nose of that race car. The splitter, looking at the grill as well underneath the chassis. As far as the right rear goes, it looks like just cosmetic damage, but the majority of the damage on the 48 certainly on the front.
And you saw Jeff Burton's car there as well, getting a lot of attention paid to the back end of the 31, the right front corner also.
See, it is really, it's bad when it's only 10% of the race really has got completed, and all of these cars are damaged. You know, Jimmy's Knight has been affected. You see the 31 car tore up. Even Jeff car, he got tore up a little bit too.
Yeah, I was not doing great, but I was doing okay till the damn 20 hit me. Man, there's just no grip on those restarts. Wow.
Yeah, it's a tough spot there, but you did a good job. I saw 20 all up on you. There. The outside, same thing happened on the start, just no grip out there.
Yes. I'm speaking from, I haven't raced here in 5 years and there wasn't any grip then, so I know it hasn't gotten better. They haven't done anything.
Shove you here. Inside, 3 wide.
The engine rev up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he had the rear wheels on. But you just wonder, and you take someone like Matt Kenseth, such a hurry at this stage of the race, but we see it time and time again here. And I tell you I think who this is going to affect. Well, obviously we talked about Casey Kane's situation, others that got damaged. You don't want anybody to. It's going to affect your team. But this 48 team, things just haven't gone well for them. I know they're still going to be the favorite leading into the chase, but going in there the way things have been going, that has to be in their head a little bit.
No momentum for Jimmie Johnson right now. You caught a glimpse of Mark Martin in Tony Stewart's 14. Coming down the pit lane, the nose of that car has been damaged also. Vince?
Yeah, the main issue is the left front. That's the issue. That's the area that's going to take the most attention right now. Steve Addington, the crew chief, just told the team, we got to get that front end fixed, particularly that left front. He said, even if we have to go down a lap here, let's make sure we get that taken care of. This team in the Owners' Championship and the Owners' Chase is currently the first wild card. So even though Tony Stewart's out of the car and Mark Martin is in, these guys still have a lot to race for here in these final 12 races. This isn't the way they wanted this one to get started.
And these new cars, something that I've been seeing over the course of the year, and this is a perfect example, the nose, then the strong part of the nose doesn't line up real well with the rear bumper, and whenever these things happen, it creates a lot more damage than what we saw in the older cars.
Yeah, you're right. The older car did line up better. When they had contact like this, it was pretty well just straight in the front. But now they go under each other. You see, you get into the radiator even. We didn't see that as much. A lot of damage with these cars, though.
You heard Dave's report that the oil cooler and the radiator were knocked out of the Casey Kane car, so there has been quite a bit of cleanup ongoing on the racetrack and on the pit road from when Kane drove that car back around. And so we'll take a break while they continue the cleanup and continue the repairs on some of these cars. Well, we just talked about it. The guy in first in the outside lane had trouble getting going last night on the restarts, and on the first restart tonight, Jeff Gordon had trouble getting going, and this resulted. The Atlanta Motor Speedway at sunset on a Sunday night of Labor Day weekend, and the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series under caution. Competition caution at lap 25, an opening round of pit stops, and then the restart from that caution went pretty ugly as Jeff Gordon had trouble getting going on the outside row. Matt Kenseth was the one behind Gordon trying to get him going.
See, Jeff was already spinning the tires there whenever he got a little nudge from Matt.
And this is what Matt has had to say about it under this yellow.
He was just giving me the high sign out the window, so I was just trying to help. I was totally squared up, and we were going straight, so I was like, oh, just give him a little nudge to get our lane moving. And as soon as I touched him, it's like he lifted, must have just spun the tires real bad, and then tried to get off him as quick as I could. Guess I won't do that anymore.
I think it's just like you said, Dale. The bumpers don't line up very well. So the second he made contact with Jeff, he took a right.
Now, on the set of pit stops before, we didn't get a chance to show you this before the restart because things went chaotic on the restart, but you'll see some damage on the right front of Ryan Newman's car. You were talking about contact on pit road, and it happened.
Never seems to fail here. Just
Cars coming out, you can see they're 4 wide right there.
And Newman has been on and off the pit road a few times under this yellow, Vince.
The good news with this contact is that even though there was some right front damage, they were able to pound it out at the fender to get it off the tire. Talked to the car chief just a moment ago. He said mostly cosmetic. They feel like they're going to be okay with what they've got. But they did have to come in, change those 4 tires because Ryan ran over some debris also. But as far as the contact and the right front fender is concerned, not a major issue, they believe, at this point.
All right, Vince, thanks. And there you see the continuing work on Jimmie Johnson's car. He's been on pit road about every lap under this yellow flag.
Make sure you're resting.
And we've talked about the difficulties that Jimmie has had over the last month or so. Back in Michigan, went to the garage. They had problems under the hood on the 48 car. Then at Bristol last week, got involved in some contact, went to the garage. And here tonight in Atlanta, caught in the sandwich, the accordion on that restart, and the damage on the nose of that 48. Jimmie Johnson had a 78-point lead a couple of weeks ago over second place in the championship. It was cut to 18 before the start of tonight, and now they're all beaten up in the opening laps here in this one too.
Say the momentum of this team has shifted about 4 or 5 races ago, and it just hasn't come back. I mean, the thing at Michigan kind of started with they lost their primary car in a practice accident, and then it seemed like things started tumbling from there.
And really, you can take this thing with Jimmie back to like Memorial Day. The whole summer has been filled with races like Indy and Pocono where he was fast and didn't get the results for it. So got another restart coming up. It should be an interesting one, huh, Rusty?
I tell you what, I've been watching Jeff Gordon spin the tires and guys last night. And every time we've done that at this racetrack, you really need to spin the tires a little bit, kind of like a drag car. Get some heat into them. Get some grip into them. And that won't happen that many times. When you just take out the cold tires, you spin these tires every time, guys. I guarantee you Gordon's ready for it this time.
He's got the good fortune, Rusty, of being on the inside row. Excuse me, Carl Edwards will be on the outside of the front row and have that position that is not enviable for this restart.
Yeah, you're there. You're trying to anticipate. Rusty's right. If you can get them cleaned off and get a little heat in them, it certainly helps. But still a difficult scenario to be in as a driver.
Pace car's off. Let's try this again.
See, all the speedy drive in the lower lane.
And just like we can't see, you can't see as a driver either. You're just hoping nothing's happening in front of you and relying on your spotter there. It's like Edwards going to be able to take the lead from that outside position this time.
You're hoping your spotter can see too.
Yes.
And Carl Edwards made that outside lane work.
I think it's because that inside lane was filled with speedy drive.
Brad Keselowski in the 2 trying to pick up a spot. Started back in 23rd.
That looked like Kevin Harvick really got loose right there.
Talked about fighting for grip all night.
Yeah, there's no way that there's any grip with all the speedy drive in that very bottom lane. And Harvick finds a way to run lower than anybody through there. I think he found some fresh speedy drive.
Harvick so impressive in the opening run of the race. Joey Logano in that 22 was also. Now they run together, trying to make up some lost ground. 10th and 11th.
Yeah, Logano had driven his car all the way to the lead before the competition caution came out and lost some spots on pit road.
And then lost a few more because he was in the outside lane for the restart.
But didn't get any damage, so that was a good thing. Moving back forward right now.
Picking up 10th on Truex in the 56. Keselowski 2, Gordon 24, 5th and 6th. 2 drivers under enormous pressure. On the outside looking in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup standings.
And what you see hanging off the back of Jeff Gordon's car is not anything to be concerned with. It's not going to create an issue if it comes off there and gets onto the racetrack. In my mind, anyway, I thought NASCAR would have never know. Boy, look at a huge run that Gordon got off turn 2 right there.
You see that and you think, man, he must have about 50 more horsepower than the other guys, but it really is all about momentum. This is a momentum racetrack.
Sounded like Keselowski had to lift just a little bit coming up off the corner, Jamie.
He did there, Alan, and earlier today I went up in the hauler and he was sitting up there and his crew chief Paul Wolf, and they were shaking their head and they said the car was horrible in practice. It was loose, it was tight. They were looking at notes from last year, looking at notes of his teammate Joey Logano, trying to figure out what kind of plan they could come up with tonight. Well, go figure. They get to the race. The car has been neutral. Brad's been happy with it. 4 tires was it on the pit stop. That gained him 3 positions on pit road alone, and he's driving to the front.
Didn't have to lift that time.
No, you can see he's got it hooked up and going where he wants to go right now. And, you know, we talked a lot over the last few weeks about the new setups that they're starting to run with these cars. Not sure that's real conducive to this type of racetrack, though.
One of the things with this new setup that you guys have tried on mile and a half is the softer rear springs where they can get the rear spoiler a little bit out of the air. And it makes for good straightaway speed. But what you're looking for here is grip. You just don't have any. And I talked to a lot of guys and most of them are not running a version of that setup because they want to try to keep this rear spoiler in the air. I do see a couple of cars. I think Carl Edwards was one that looked like it was incorporating something similar to what we've seen lately.
And fighting grip at 150-something miles an hour center of the corner that you saw that last time through 3 and 4 for Gordon and Kyle Busch and Keselowski.
Yeah, you can see looking at Gordon's car, it's pretty healthy up in the back, and it's making a lot of downforce. That creates a lot of drag, and it does slow you down on the straightaway, but if you lose a lot of momentum through the middle of the corner, that straightaway speed doesn't help you.
So Gordon making up some lost ground when he slipped back after that restart slip. He's charged back up to 3rd behind Montoya and the race leader, Carl Edwards, who's out in front. Closing in on the 100-mile mark of tonight's 500-mile NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Telecast presented by Pennzoil. And moments ago, Paul Menard hit the wall really hard with the right side of that 27 car. Now he's off the pace on the backstretch.
Wow, you can see the angle he hit. He hit hard right there in the trial.
Yeah, I see a look of contact there. He was going to go to the outside. I don't think Denny Hamlin knew he was there. That's a lot of contact. Like Hamlin's got some damage too.
They were racing for 23rd and 24th spots. And yeah, you see that right rear corner of the 11 car.
Something might be broke on the car. Track bar mount or something.
Denny Hamlin, who started at the back of this field because his team had to change an engine after qualifying. Limping around in 33rd, and there Menard back on pit road again.
Well, we talked about the troubles of Jimmy Johnson. That's just a few weeks, and they've got a lot of wins. But Denny Hamlin, my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a year that he just wants to ride off.
Summer to forget. All going well for Carl Edwards tonight, and second place about to change hands. If you could swap the numbers on the...
Yes.
You know, oh, never mind.
I got you.
I see what you did.
Yeah. 24 by 42.
Yeah, I know Rusty picked this 24 car. I think he had some inside information here. Jeff Gordon looks like the determined man we've seen win here a number of times.
Finished 1st and 2nd in the last 2 races here. And time now for unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series with NASCAR Mobile 13 and unlimited talk, text, and data on the Sprint Network. Brian Vickers had to drop to the back for an engine change on this 55 car, and look at what he's done. Up to 18th in the opening 100 miles of this race. You can get unlimited access to NASCAR with the NASCAR Mobile 13 app. Join the family with the unlimited MyWay plan, guaranteed for life and only from Sprint. See sprint.com/speed for details. Debris in turn 2. Caution is coming out. About 30 laps after the last round of pit stops. There's
something.
Piece of whatever it is.
I saw that 27 car, the way he hit the wall. I'm not surprised that there's some debris out there. Shredding that right rear tire.
How about Junior, Vince?
Well, Dale Earnhardt Jr. liked the car a lot better this second run than he did the first run. Too tight across the center the first time. But then he said he got a bad vibration in that right front. He thinks it's a loose wheel. That yellow came just in time, guys, because they were getting ready to come to pit lane under green. He said, I hope it's a loose wheel. If not, we've got a problem.
May have a problem even if that's what it is, because that's not a good situation.
Can cause damage to the studs that hold the wheel on, hold the lugs on, and hold the wheel on the car, and so on.
If they let it go too long, it can definitely damage those studs, and then the wheel won't tighten back up. But still, the caution is a break.
So already the third caution of the race story so far. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., the pole sitter, sliding back into the field on the start. Juan Pablo Montoya led the opening series of laps. Joey Logano ran up, took the lead, had a bad pit stop at lap 27, shuffled him back. Then a big jam on the restart caused Kasey Kahne to go back into the garage, damaged Jimmy Johnson and Mark Martin's car and Jeff Burton's cars. On that restart, Carl Edwards took the lead, and he has held the top spot till this yellow flag. Now the pit crews will go to work again. Dave?
Third place, Jeff Gordon, pretty happy with his car. In fact, he says much better in 1 and 2, just a tick tight, a smaller adjustment up on the track bar this time, 4 tires and Sunoco fuel. Jamie?
Brad Keselowski said he's a little free off now. The guys did a great job getting him off pit road last time. 4 tires is the call. Carl Edwards, like the last change, once more of a track bar adjustment. 4 tires, fill him up. Mike?
Juan Pablo Montoya saying the car is better than it was in the last run. Still a little bit tight, a 4-tire change, a little bit of an air pressure adjustment, and he's away.
Looks like Gordon's going to fix that lane choice problem he had.
Great stop by the 24.
Get to start on that inside line this time.
And another difficult stop for Logano's team, giving up a couple of more spots. Picking up some debris that has put us under caution for the 3rd time. And the new leader here in Atlanta is Jeff. While we're under caution tonight here in Atlanta, don't forget the Motorsports Weekend's not over yet. The NHRA Chevrolet Performance U.S. Nationals Finals from Indianapolis. Biggest drag race of the year. See it tomorrow at noon Eastern Time on ESPN2. Then next weekend it's on to Richmond. The NASCAR Nationwide Series Friday night, 7 Eastern on ESPN. And the race that decides who's in the chase. Next Saturday night from Richmond, 7 Eastern Time on ABC next weekend. And tonight from the AdvoCare 500 at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, you can check out NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy and catch action with 10 HD live race views, live chat, and live leaderboard. NASCAR.com/RaceBuddy. It's been kind of an eventful first 61 laps in this thing so far. We're just a lap or two shy of the 100-mile mark, and already look at what's happened. Joey Logano ran up to take the lead after taking the green flag back in the 11th starting spot. Then on a caution flag came down pit road, and it didn't go so well.
Yeah, a little hiccup on the right front, lost about 5 or 6 spots.
So on the restart from that caution, it really didn't go so well for the Hendrick group.
Jeff Gordon spun his tires starting on the outside of the front row there. Created a lot of issues, and one of them being for 2 of them for his teammates. Jimmy Johnson and Kasey Kahne getting the worst of the deal.
Kane's been back in the garage ever since. A lot of damage to that 5 car. Denny Hamlin has been on and off pit road a number of times under this caution. Mike?
Yeah, and the concern initially was that he thought he had something broken. They looked under the rear of that car. They thought it might have been a broken track bar mount. That wasn't the case. They looked in the front suspension, didn't find any broken suspension parts. Then they looked at the wheels, nothing wrong there. They cannot ascertain what Denny's feeling that might be wrong with the race car right now. So we'll just have to pay attention to that. Dave?
Kasey Kahne will be feeling out his 5 car as it re-enters the track. They replaced the oil cooler, the radiator, as we reported, all the ductwork surrounding it, fired it up, no leaks, so they sent him back out. They made the decision not to replace the entire front end bodywork. Then the problem was getting the hood fastened down, so we'll be watching that as he gets back up to speed.
Jeff Gordon, the new leader, as the green flag waves again. Well, again, Carl Edwards looked to have a little trouble getting going. The first guy in that outside lane, but hooked it back up, held off Montoya, and now he's chasing Jeff Gordon to see if he can get the lead back.
Yeah, the good thing that we see it now is those guys that are starting on the outside of that front row are getting a little bit of margin there between the guy that's starting fourth and those on back where they're trying to get through these restarts, so that's helping out.
18 Kyle Busch, 15 Clint Bowyer. 5th and 6th, Kevin Harvick, who started back in 30th, up in that mix also.
See Martin Truex in that mix right there in the 56 car. Driving with a cast on that right hand. Keep an eye on him throughout the night. This racetrack really wears on you physically anyway, and you need both hands all the time to make fast laps around here. So we'll see in these last, at least the last 100 miles of this race, if that affects him some.
Looks like he has a good car, though.
So Denny Hamlin there being passed by the leader, Jeff Gordon. Denny was out of his pit box on his last stop. That's a no-no. They didn't adjust it before they did the work on the car, so he owes NASCAR a penalty. You see him slowing for there.
Now that's a no-no. You have to keep the car in the pit box when any work is being done. That's a pretty severe penalty, too. It's a one-lap penalty, actually.
Darian Grubb not happy.
Yeah, he's trying to argue that it's a pass-through penalty, but it's really more severe than that, pitting out of the box.
Yeah, they made their pass-through the last time, and then they made them stop this time, so.
We'll let them sort that one out. I think a man who's had his share of experiences discussing things on the sidelines with officials is involved there.
The only difference there is those guys don't have stripes on, but Joe's had his time telling things how he saw it.
I can tell you, though, from experience, that he's not going to win it.
He probably has that experience in sports. Yeah. Now they'll go back, check the tapes, and so on, and if something needs to be done, to NASCAR's credit, they will sort it out, usually, and fix it if they've cost them a lap.
Yeah, that pitting on the box, though, is one of the most severe penalties that you can get. They've really made that a pretty clear line that you have to pit, do all the work inside your own pit box.
Truex on the move in that 56 car. Going to get that 6th position from Kyle Busch. And again, Truex, one of those guys, that nasty crash at the end of that Bristol race last Saturday night that injured him, knocked him out of the chase standings. And he does have one win, so he's in a wild card spot, but it's so close for those guys. If a guy like Jeff Gordon or Keselowski gets a win, that only adds to the drama.
Yeah, and I'll go back to something Andy brought up earlier about seeing drivers that are injured. Sometimes we see the best runs, and as someone that's been in that position, we all have had to do it at some point in time. I think sometimes because you don't want to think about that injury, you focus a lot more on what your job is, and you get the job done, and you actually drive some of the best races you've ever driven because you want to not focus on what is hurting you, and then you can do that after this is over. But I promise you, he'll be sore tomorrow, but doing a great job here tonight. See, Kenseth take that spot away from his teammate also.
Kyle Busch slipping back a little bit. That'll drop him back to 8th position. Kenseth up to 7th, maybe.
Might have to do that one again.
Why we love this Atlanta track. A lot of side-by-side racing, a lot of options for the drivers. 5-time Atlanta winner Jeff Gordon is leading this race as we come up on the 1/4 mark. Our telecast tonight presented by Pennzoil. Paul Menard leaving pit road after bringing out the caution for a 4th time in tonight's race here at Atlanta. That used to be attached to that 27 car.
Yeah, there's Paul Menard. He's been struggling with that damage that he had earlier, and he cut a tire down and brought out the last caution with some debris. This time the whole carcass comes off. Who hits it?
Jimmy.
Good Lord. When it rains, it pours, doesn't it?
It does that. All that work they did to kind of restructure the front end of that 48 car probably ripped back off. Jeff Gordon also caught it.
No, he missed it. He almost caught it.
So caution out, pit road closed because of where that tire casing sat, and NASCAR not wanting anybody to hit it. Jimmy Johnson having to come in because his team needing some extra time to work on that car some more.
Yeah, they can pit with the pit road closed. They just have to start at the back of the field. That's the penalty for that.
And so far tonight, with the cautions falling the way they are, there aren't many other cars that aren't on the lead lap, so not costing them much. They've got a lot of work to do still on the front end.
That is his 7th stop to repair damage in this race so far.
Well, I've learned never to count this team out. They can do some miraculous things with that race
Remember
car.
Kansas? That was last year, right, at Kansas? Incredible. But they've got a lot of damage on the splitter right in the middle of that race car. Right,
they're working on it.
Front
You see the guy jumping on it right now, trying to get it down.
All right,
Where they need it.
Pit lane is open here. Here come the leaders. And Gordon's going to get away, Dave.
He sure wants to pit. He's a little bit tight, but the car is good. He'll take 4 tires, Sunoco fuel, and just a little adjustment to the wedge, a little balance adjustment for that tightness.
Brad Keselowski's pretty happy with this car. They haven't made a single adjustment tonight. Just tight over the bumps is the call. Carl Edwards, he said they're good on the short run, but they're working on getting it better over the long run. Mike?
Juan Pablo Montoya telling Chris Leroy all they've done is made the car a little bit tighter. They need to free it up. Close call off pit road for the 42. They'll make another air pressure adjustment. He's away.
A lot of close calls on pit road. Greg Biffle tangled up with Casey Mears.
Still not over. They're all trying to get out.
And Carl Edwards nudging ahead of Jeff Gordon at that scoring line at pit exit. Didn't get him by much, but got it.
Battle of the pit crews tonight. Carl Edwards wins this one.
There's the difference. Edwards will be the control car for the restart in a minute. Watch ESPN. Should be a good one.
Who do you like, Alan?
That's not fair. I'm a Florida State fan. Come on. Florida State's got a good team this year. See if they can deliver. See if Jeff Gordon makes out a little better in that first row outside restart position than he did the last time around.
Well, I'd say it'll be better. I'm not sure just how good it'll be because that's a difficult spot.
Carl Edwards, the control car, the yellow one for the restart.
Just trying to get a little sneak up run and go on him here where the RPMs aren't down so much. Still can't get it. Huh? Late in the race, we could find somebody on a late pit stop making a move like we saw at Bristol last week, not to be the second car.
Trying to count cars.
Yes.
Yeah. Make sure they get that inside lane for the restart. So Carl Edwards now with Brad Keselowski, his closest pursuer. There's Clint Boyer, orange and black. Trying to hold off Jeff Gordon for third, but look at the run that 24 gets on the outside.
That's incredible.
Mark Martin free pass at the caution. Casey Kane back on the racetrack. 31 laps down, 42nd place.
Another driver way back in the field. We just saw him go by there. Greg Biffle slid through his pits, then came back in to make some adjustments to their race car, so they started at the very rear of this.
Remember, he and Casey Mears got tangled up on the pit road. Biffle, 9th in the championship standings, only 17 points ahead of 11th. Can't really afford to have a bad night tonight. But there he is, way back in 32nd place. Kurt Busch, 78, has been very impressive in the opening laps of this race. Took the green flag back in 32nd place. There you see him racing with Kevin Harvick, 29, and Ryan Newman, 39 for 12th.
A good comeback by Ryan Newman up there right in front of him, too, after they had that damage on that first pit on the stops and leaving pit road there. A lot of damage to the right front.
Now, it's not to say it's been easy for Kurt.
Exactly what we were talking about. These drivers have their hands full. Even, I think Andy pointed out too, even the drivers leading the race are going to be complaining about their cars, but you can see just how out of shape that was. And as a driver, you're kind of on pins and needles. You know it could happen at any time, and if you make that adjustment that really gets you kind of out of whack, driving a loose race car here, almost impossible. You're just a recipe for disaster. How about that 78, Vince?
Well, they've been on both sides of the line between snug and loose. You saw he had a bit of a handful there, but he's come from 32nd starting position all the way up to 14th, so it hasn't been all bad. They've been fighting more snug than anything else. Todd Barrier, the crew chief, told me before the race, this is the worst we've been all season. We took big swings at it to get it ready for the race tonight, and we're going to lean heavy on Kurt. So far, Kurt's doing the job.
Left side of the screen, Joey Logano picking up 8th spot on Kyle Busch. A neutral pit stop for Logano's team that time. First 2 pit stops, they lost positions, including one at lap 27 where they came in as the leader, went out 6th. Now Logano passing Kyle Busch there for a spot.
See, just wearing that inside lane out.
There were those first 2 stops for Logano's team. And again, here's a team that came in 10th in the championship. The big night, the big pressure. They've got a great car. But if things aren't going well on pit road, it's going to be a problem.
Well, it's still early, and if you're going to have problems, it's better to have it now and try to get it all worked out, because they're going to make a lot more pit stops before this night's over.
Yeah, and the good thing is, Alan, you mentioned it's a problem. It's a problem. Other places it can be a disaster. Here you do have racing room with a good car to make passes and work your way back to the front, like we saw Joey Logano do early in this race, Vince.
Yeah, they lost those 7 spots, as you guys mentioned, on pit lane. Lost 5 the first time, a little slow on the front. A couple the second stop, slow on the back. But the good news is for Logano, the car has been real good when it's on the track. And they were really happy with it coming in, so they were able to get it to turn like they wanted, and the drive off was good. They feel like track position right now is the only major issue, the only thing holding back the 22 Logano.
So Logano trying to creep in there on 20, Matt Kenseth, and 1, Jamie McMurray, who are racing for 6th position. Nice drive by McMurray tonight in that 1 car. Started 15th.
See, right up there with his teammate, Montoya up in front, so good night for Chip Ganassi's teams. We're talking about Logano. The only downside to that is, as a driver, you work so hard here every lap, and you make those spots up, you drive your way up there, and then having to pass some of the same cars, and these other car drivers making their cars better, it becomes more and more difficult, plus just a little deflating to you, and you have to be careful. Make sure you keep your focus and not let it get to you.
You see how he's running that low line. You see sparks flying out of that 22. I saw a shot a while ago. It looked like the left front splitter. He's worn a little bit of it away. The more he runs that low line and rubs that part of the splitter, he'll lose a little bit of the downforce on the front of the car.
We saw Harvick do that all night last night and winning the nationwide race, Andy, for 300 miles, but this is another 200 miles with it. Withstand all of that?
Well, it's going to wear it out. I mean, he's making time there, so I would suggest just stay with it and hope it holds up.
Coming up on 150 miles of tonight's AdvoCare 500 for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Carl Edwards back out in front. His pit crew got him the lead ahead of Jeff Gordon a little bit ago. Carl pulled away from now 2nd place Brad Keselowski by a 2nd.
Welcome back to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race at Atlanta Motor Speedway, presented by Pennzoil. After 98 laps in this one, Carl Edwards leads the way. Not a driver we would consider a bubble driver. You know, coming into this race, it was Martin Truex Jr. and Ryan Newman who were our wild card drivers. As we run right now, we're talking it's Greg Biffle and Casey Kane. So a very fluid situation in terms of who will make the chase and who will be left on the outside looking in. Not one of the drivers we're concerned about as we come inside the Quicken Loans ESPN pit studio, Jimmie Johnson. That said, Jimmie Johnson has had a very interesting night and a very interesting few weeks for that 48 team.
The 48 team has just had bad luck. I mean, incredible bad luck. And this continues. Tonight here at Atlanta, got himself in trouble on a restart where he gets hit in the back end. He hits, looks like the 29 car. They're working on the front of the car to try to get a patch back up. Not a clean night for Johnson tonight.
No, not at all. And I'll tell you what, the way the 20 group has performed this year with Matt Kenseth, that 48 better get going because they're not going to flip a switch all of a sudden next week and start coming on strong.
Being told now that there are problems with the 22. What's going on, Vince?
Joey Logano had been running just fine and liked the car, and then it suddenly developed a vibration. Joey said he feels it down like underneath the seat area. Crew Chief Todd Gordon didn't want to take any chances. They brought him in for 4 fresh tires and a little bit of Sunoco fuel, Nicole.
Interesting thing on Joey Logano. He had a trouble last night in the Nationwide Series race and bounced back for a top 10 finish. That would be good enough for him tonight.
The points are just moving all over the place. I mean, it's hard to keep track. Brad Keselowski was out of it. Now he's 8th in the points. Joey Logano was in it. Now he's down to 14th in the points. I mean, these things are changing all over. I'll guarantee you it's going to change before the night's over.
Oh, yeah.
I just got to keep watching it because it's unreal. And you look at Jeff Gordon having a race of his life. He's driving his brains out. He's been leading. He's 3rd right now. Right now he's in. He's 10th in the points right now. So, Brad, it's hard to follow this thing for me.
It really is. Jeff's moved into the top 10, and then obviously the 78 car's moved into the 11th position. But the problem is the guys in 12th and 13th, Casey Keene, Ryan Truex, both have wins. So that's going to trump everything. It's going to be interesting.
Alan?
Hi, Nicole, Rusty, Brad, thanks. It is a really dynamic situation with this championship, and it's going to be that way for 400 laps next Saturday night in Richmond as well. It should be a pretty wild night. Jeff Gordon giving up 3rd spot to Clint Bowyer. 15 car moving up, having a great run tonight. Bowyer needing wins for bonus points for seeding in the championship. He's already locked in his place in the chase, or to use their term, he got a hat. To clinch your place in the chase, they give you and your team hats to commemorate.
I just saw Jeff Gordon's car wiggle a little bit. I don't think he's as good at this run as he's been all night.
Carl Edwards, the race leader.
I know they were talking about loosening Gordon's car up a little bit, but I think that's a mistake with what I would expect this track to do. What we heard last night and what typically happens is that the car is going to get freer here, and so they may have to go back on that adjustment to make their driver in that 24 a little more happy. There you see Keselowski in that 2nd spot.
Interesting with Fords running 1st and 2nd. There was a period of time this summer where the discussion was that the Fords were behind, that the Chevrolets were dominating at that time, and earlier in the season the Toyotas were dominating. And does Matt Kenseth have a problem, or is that just Joey Logano looking like Superman on fresh tires? Dave?
Here he comes, right front tire. Matt called in about lap 100. I think I've got a problem with it. He stayed out a few more laps just to see if he could handle it, and he said, nope, I definitely have a problem. So they brought him to pit road, not wanting to risk anything. Tire comes off, getting a quick look at it as soon as it comes across the wall, guys. And it doesn't appear to have any visible tread marks or anything on it that would be alarming at this point. So they're checking the wheels as well. We'll get back to you with any update on that.
Dave, thanks. So from 10th place, Kenseth on the pit road under the green.
You know, I've wondered about this, and going back to last night, with something totally new with these drivers, anything that they feel, they're going to attribute it to a tire situation because that's the newest thing about this. They've raced here forever, but this tire is completely different, and they're not going to take any chances with that.
And with the history of this racetrack, has been so hard on tires, you don't want to blow that right front. I mean, Joe Logano did it last night, got away with it somehow, but usually you don't.
Logano needs this race to stay green till everybody else has made a green flag pit stop. Same for Kenseth. Those pit stops should begin in a few moments. So we'll take a break and come back for the action on the pit lane. Carl Edwards in that yellow 99 is the race leader.
Nothing else. His take on Dave's sports activity will be different than anything else you've heard.
It is absolutely fun. Watched a couple nights already. Under the green for a long run here at Atlanta Motor Speedway tonight with Carl Edwards out in front. Leading Brad Keselowski, Clint Bowyer, Jeff Gordon, and Jamie McMurray. Jimmy Johnson a lap down. And struggling with that car damaged in the jam up on the restart back at lap 30.
Yeah, that's just too much damage in critical places to overcome for this race team. And I can tell you, you've got him, you've got Casey Keene back out there. We talked about what a long night it is. When you have a decent car, it's an extremely long night. When you're out there with something like this and Casey Keene so many laps down, this is no fun. You'd rather be somewhere else. You have to do it, but you'd rather not be there.
Now, speaking of long night, We documented earlier Joey Logano's struggles on the pit lane the first couple of times. And Vince, we said he didn't lose any spots on that last yellow flag pit stop. But then they were back on pit road under the green again because?
Well, because they had that vibration, and they found the reason for the vibration. 3 loose lugs on the left rear.
Man,
they're struggling on pit road tonight.
And again, a car that's in that bubble zone in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup.
Said that was their fastest stop under that caution. We know why now.
Yeah. As they run right now.
To get them all
whoa. Brian Vickers on the move with that high run around Kyle Busch. Vickers has really been fast in this race so far in that 55. Started at the back because of an engine change.
Yeah, and they fell off that last run a little bit after we showed them and didn't seem to have things right, but they made a good adjustment here. I don't know exactly what they did to this 55. And they're working in a new situation. Scott Miller now the crew chief on this 55 car, so probably take a little bit of time to really get that communication going, but they've got a good driver in the seat.
Yeah, one thing I see Brian doing, he's one of the best at doing this too, is going all the way to the wall to try to find some grip that might be available, and he's doing that now.
Jimmie Johnson, not uncommon at a track where tires make such a difference. When you get lapped, you hit the pit road.
Yeah, just try to do something. If you can get off sequence and pit short, you got that amount of time you can go out there and run on fresh tires about 2 seconds faster than the guys that haven't pitted. If you catch the caution just right, it can pay off.
And we watched Vickers there in that 55. He's running that high line both ends, and you can see his entry. He's right up against the wall. He doesn't drive it in really hard, but he's able to pick the throttle up and drive it all the way around the corner. Creates a lot of speed down the straightaways that way.
Yeah, I saw he passed Kyle Busch. It looked like Kyle learned something too, or trying something similar to what we see Vickers doing here.
Beginning to see some of the lead lap cars trickle onto the pit lane. Jamie?
Eric Almirola on pit road now. Green flag pit stops, as you said, beginning. 4-tire stop here for Eric. Wipe the grill. Down and away. And we're looking at 8 to 10 laps for the 2 car and the 15, Alan.
Jamie, thanks. Just to go back and tie up the details on that Brian Vickers story, Rodney Childers, the crew chief, announcing that he was moving to Stewart-Haas Racing to work with Kevin Harvick for next season. So as has become kind of common, the team saying, okay, well, we can't keep you in all the meetings with all the, all of our latest and greatest research and development going on. So you sit out, and Scott Miller, the vice president of competition for Michael Waltrip Racing, will manage this 55's effort for the rest of this season. Martin Truex comes in from 8th place, Jamie.
And he sounded pretty happy on the radio the last stint here that he ran 4 tires. Wrist seems to be feeling pretty good. They made a custom gear shift for him to help take the pressure off the wrist. Remember, he's driving with that cast on. 12.6-second pit stop. Pretty good for Martin Truex.
Been doing a great job tonight.
Not much of a rest time for a wrist.
No.
Injured, but he's glad that they made a fast stop for him.
Well, and maybe a misconception, too, for people that have never driven one of these race cars. You're not really resting on that pit stop. You're very busy in the car, right?
Yeah, no, you want to take just a second maybe to get something to drink, but then it's time to get going again. Jamie?
A lot of drivers in that situation right now, Jamie.
Yes, and Jeff Burton got in that accident early on, had a lot of right side damage. You see the Barabon tape all over the right-hand side. They worked on it. They've made it better. He's been running well. 4-tire stop. Mike?
Juan Pablo Montoya, a little bit loose in, loose off. They'll make a wedge adjustment on the left side of that car. 4 tires and fuel. He's away.
One car of Jamie McMurray just a little bit free right now. Has driven from 10th to 5th on that run. A really good drive for this team.
The 78 of Kurt Busch, remember, started deep into the field. He's worked his way up into the top 10. Loose in, tight across the middle, and loose off. 4 tires, Sunoco fuel, air pressure adjustment, making a chassis adjustment as well on the 78. Dave?
Kyle Busch has come and gone from pit road. They changed 4 tires, made significant adjustments for a car that was extremely tight for Kyle. Jamie?
Carl Edwards gave up the lead. Car has been good, just a little free in and off, but otherwise been very good. 4-tire stop. They'll fill him up with Sunoco fuel. Air pressure adjustments have been seeming to make a difference here.
Kevin Harvick on pit road. He had been having issues with the splitter hitting the racetrack. They corrected it the last stop. The car has been much better since. A 4 tires change on the 29, and Harvick is now rolling down pit road.
The 88 of Dale Earnhardt Jr. has just left his pit box, says it's pretty good, but they worked on the chassis just a little bit with a track bar adjustment, air pressure, and 4 tires for the 88. And there's a look at Ryan Newman. It's been eventful for him, but the car has actually gotten good despite a little right front damage early in the race. He says it's a tick-free off. They talked about an air pressure adjustment, but they waved it off at the end. Just 4 good years in Sunoco fuel.
So the race has stayed green. Cycling Joey Logano and Matt Kenseth up to first and second. Remember, they made the green flag pit stops back at lap 100 and 105, respectively. Problem is now they're out there on older tires. All these other guys are on new tires. They'll be flying through the field. These guys need a caution soon to get back in cycle with the rest of the leaders.
Yeah, I was looking. Joey Logano's got a huge lead now over Carl Edwards. You see Clint Bowyer racing each other. Clint Bowyer had a great pit stop there in the green.
Yeah, Logano would like to see this go. He and Matt Kenseth about 10, maybe 12 more laps to ensure everybody they would come back down for 4 tires and put them in a good spot.
And see, look how fast 99 and 15 ate up Kenseth in the 20 there. That is for second place. Edwards in second, 11 seconds behind the leader, Joey Logano.
That's 17 laps difference in tires that you're seeing there between the 20 and the 99-15.
As we come up on the 200-mile marker of tonight's race here at Atlanta, our telecast presented by Pennzoil. Labor Day weekend in Atlanta. And for NASCAR, it's the Atlanta Motor Speedway, where tonight's Saddler Care 500 is just shy of its halfway mark. It's been a pretty eventful race so far. Big jam on the restart, big shuffle in some of the championship standings, the race to the chase standings. And yes, even an argument over a penalty call as well. And no argument over the performance of Clint Bowyer tonight, running second in the championship, in the race, and now the leader in the championship as they run. Long way to go in tonight's race, and I know about the reseeding and the wins and all that kind of thing. But Jimmie Johnson had such a massive lead just 3 races ago that Clint Bowyer will now be ahead of him in the points tally.
And something to me that says that you need to pay attention. Clint Bowyer hasn't won a race yet this year. In 10 races, can he be consistent enough just that could carry him to a championship? Just being consistent. That's what this team has been about all year long.
A little short for Matt Kenseth to be back in, Dave.
They just didn't feel like they could give up any more time on the track with old tires. Matt was told that they didn't find anything wrong with the right front tire. He still complained that the right front of the car feels down. He called the car really hard to drive, but again, they pitted early just to get the fresh rubber on that car.
It's going to drop Matt well behind and off of the lead lap as he didn't get that caution he needed when he got off cycle. Wow, Montoya got his hands full there.
Power slide.
Juan Pablo Montoya up toward the front of this race, led 36 laps, now finds himself back in 12th position in that 42. So Joey Logano, the race leader, needing things to cycle his way here very, very quickly if he's going to stay out in front. Let's go up to speed and check in on some of the front runners. Vince?
Well, and crew chief Todd Gordon just told Logano you've still got good speed despite the fact your tires are about 20 laps older than Logano's. Logano last pitted on lap 100. Remember, they had to come in because of the loose lugs on the left rear. Otherwise, it's been a good night on the track. The car is handling well for the 22 of Logano. Jamie.
Well, you guys mentioned the great night that the 15 of Clint Bowyer has had. He's had a rocket ship. They had a little hiccup earlier. They had some debris on the grill. He got up to 290. They were able to get it off. Now, they're running an experimental engine under the hood here. Brian Patty, crew chief, told me it's something different than the other Toyota teammates are running. He said, we're locked in. We have nothing to lose. We need to do something to win a race. He's winless. Behind him, the 99 of Carl Edwards, who's been the class of the field tonight. This car's been a little free in and off, but on the last stop, they made a left side air pressure adjustment. Now he said he's a tick too tight. Carl Edwards looking to go to victory lane here again. Behind him, Brad Keselowski started the race 23rd. They've worked on this car, none. All they've done all night is put 4 tires on it. No changes. He's been happy with it, happy with how they're running. This is another driver that's desperate to get a win before it's over. Dave?
Jamie McMurray got good news this week that they'll be extending his contract to drive the 1 car for Chip Ganassi Racing. Tonight, the car has been pretty good. Crew chief Kevin Mannion told me they had a tight race car in practice, but they didn't want to loosen it up too much because of the way cars go loose here. So far, they've had a good handle on it. As for Jeff Gordon, he's gone back a little bit right now. His car has been adjusted on, but he just reported a little while ago, super tight on landing. And his crew chief told me today one of the hardest things about getting ready for this race, one time a year in Atlanta, brand new race car, brand new tire. We've got our work cut out for us. Jamie?
And Martin Truex Jr. started the race 7th. The only driver with top 10s on all 5 mile-and-a-half tracks this year. Now, last year at this track, at the end of the race, they had a chance to win it. There was a caution. They ended up finishing 4th. But Chad Johnston, his crew chief, told me they brought back the same setup, and they were expecting big things from this car. So far, so good. Alan?
Change for the lead coming up. Clint Bowyer, 15, has caught Joey Logano and goes by.
He made up 11 seconds after they came out of the pits on Joey Logano, and you can just see what the tires are worth.
22 laps difference on their tires. Bowyer pitted at 122, Logano at 100.
Yeah, I can understand him running the 22 down. He did it very quickly, but he passed Carl Edwards after they came out of the pits, and Carl's been kind of setting the standard under a lot of green, leading a lot of laps, and they've adjusted this 15 car, and whatever engine they put in there, experimental or not, it's getting the job done.
Absolutely. There are 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Edwards 99, Keselowski 2, McMurray 1. Running about 2 seconds behind the new race leader. Clint Bowyer says, now that we have a hat, a clinched place in the chase, I want bonus points for wins. Well, he's leading here in Atlanta. Great look at Atlanta Motor Speedway, one of NASCAR's fastest tracks. And speaking of speed, buckle your seatbelt and play AT&T's Fastest Driver Challenge. Text FAST to 34763 to predict who will have the fastest times in tonight's race. Brought to you by the nation's fastest 4G LTE network, AT&T. Rethink possible. Beautiful 75-degree night just south of Atlanta in Hampton, Georgia, where Clint Bowyer is the current leader of tonight's AdvoCare 500. Bowyer's opened up a 3-second lead on second place Joey Logano. Impressive in itself that Logano has continued to hang on to the number 2 spot. Jeff Gordon, Brad Keselowski fighting for 5th and 6th positions. We've seen some people have some troubles tonight that are in that bubble class in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. We've seen Gordon slip back, begin to move forward. These standings, the top 10, very, very fluid. Keselowski currently showing in the top 10 in points. Gordon, by slipping back, out. Greg Biffle fell back to 32nd earlier. He's raced his way back to 21st now, from out of the top 10 back into the top 10. So it's really changing around a lot as the fates and fortunes of these drivers and teams ebbs and flows tonight.
I think Jeff Gordon's got a lot better car now. He had one run there, the last run before this last pit stop he made, where he didn't run well, lost some track position, and now he's starting to gain it back. He's seeing the car that we saw early in the race.
Remember Casey Kane involved in the big accident back on the restart at lap 30, and Casey back on the track, but in 39th place, 32 laps down to the race leader.
And Keselowski a few laps ago was up there trying to take the 3rd spot away from Carl Edwards. Ran a few laps down the bottom, and I think he might have heated the right rear tire up so much that he's had to move up and kind of cool things down. You can see Jamie McMurray got by him for that 4th spot. He's able to hold Gordon off right now, but coming back forward. But I think he just heated the tires up and needed to cool them down. You see,
yeah, I'd say so.
Right there
is all over. So you might have
a problem.
Yeah, the car was all over the place.
At a track that's as difficult on tires as this one is, and at a long green flag run when you're a driver, and first of all, are you worried about it? And second of all, when you start to have that bobble and that kind of thing, does it affect how you're driving?
Yeah, it affects how you're driving, and you're not sure exactly what it is. Is it just a track, and your tire's wearing out? Did you run it a little bit too hard, or do you really have a problem? And that makes this the most difficult place. We saw experienced driver, the guy with the most wins, Matt Kenseth earlier.
Yeah.
Thought he had a right front going down, but that wasn't it at all.
Yeah, he's trying to figure it out right now. He's only got 30 laps on his tires, so you wouldn't think it'd be worn out, but the 22's on pit road.
didn't get the caution he needed to get back on the cycle with the leaders, Vince.
No, they were holding on, trying to get out there and stay out there as long as they possibly could, hoping to catch that yellow. He says it's just a little bit snug. Obviously, 4 Goodyear tires are going to top him off with Sunoco fuel and an air pressure adjustment as well for the 22 Logano. He likes the car, but they are off sequence. Didn't catch the yellow as they'd hoped.
Not unusual for the center section of an Atlanta race to have some long green flag runs. So if, again, same situation, if this thing stays green through a cycle of pit stops and then a caution comes out, Logano still could be in good shape. Kurt Busch, 78, 55, Brian Vickers. That's for 11th and 12th. Of course, the announcement earlier this week that Kurt Busch would be moving to Stewart-Haas Racing, confirmed to drive a 4th car. Set aside all of the what kind of teammates will these guys make and all that, how it affects Kurt and this 78 team as they try to get into the chase and if they do compete for a championship.
Yeah, well, I think it was bad timing. If I were Kurt, I would have pushed to have that, even though there was so much talk about it. I would have held off that, especially these next couple of races. It's a little demoralizing to the team that you're driving for right now, trying to make the chase.
I can see both sides of it, though. It was a great opportunity for Kurt. He had to make it. When the opportunity came, he had to go kind of pounce on it. Sometimes those things don't come exactly when you want them.
Why can't you just keep it from everybody? You
can't do that in this
business, can't you?
Not anymore.
Actually, I think sometimes it becomes less of a distraction just to get it out there and get it over with than to have people keeping to ask you about it and not be able to say anything about it.
Yeah, but certainly a move that Kurt Busch is going to work well for him. Puts a lot on that Stewart-Haas team over there to assemble enough people and put together another good race team because, we're late in the season here really for that kind of thing to be happening.
3rd place fight here. Jeff Gordon 24, Jamie McMurray 1. Putting a lap on Mike Bliss in that 51. Mike driving the car that Bobby Labonte was supposed to wheel here. Bobby in a cycling accident earlier this week broke 3 ribs. Certainly send our best well wishes to the former champ and so many time winner here at Atlanta that he's feeling better soon.
Yeah, he was always the man to beat here. Bobby Labonte did a great job and certainly wish you the best, Bobby.
Absolutely ditto from here. Well, Jeff Gordon up to 3rd place, trying to work his way back up front with those last couple of cars he passed. He worked his way back into the top 10 in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Championship standings for the moment.
Back at Atlanta Motor Speedway, green flag pit stops. Dale Earnhardt Jr. tight at the start of the run, so they made a little air pressure adjustment. It's been a top 15 kind of night so far for Jr. Let's go to Mike.
Greg Biffle on pit road as well. He had been hitting the splitter during that course of that run. They'll raise the track bar trying to rectify that problem. 4 tires and Sunoco race fuel for Biffle. Dave?
Kyle Busch's crew finishing up his pit stop. His car was so good at the beginning of the run, but very loose at the end of it. 4 tires and adjustments. Vince?
Ryan Newman came into this race as the 2nd wild card. He's clinging to a spot in the chase. Car just a little tighter on that run. Air pressure adjustment and 4 tires. Mike?
Last time down pit road, Chris Heroy made an air pressure adjustment that Juan Pablo Montoya absolutely did not like. He backslid a few spots. They'll make a track bar adjustment here, and he's away after 4 tires. Meanwhile, Brian Vickers on pit road, also complaining that the car is a little bit loose and that he's losing forward drive. They'll make adjustments there as he slides into his pit box and goes to work on the right side of that car. A 4-tire change expected on the 55 and an air pressure adjustment. Dave?
Jeff Gordon started the run. His car was super tight on landing, according to the driver, but he ended the run loose. They're going to make an air pressure adjustment for him and a wedge adjustment in the left rear. Jamie?
And Carl Edwards in his box saying he's losing grip on the long run. Let's think about the rear tires. They've been doing air pressure all night, and it's worked. 4 tires for the 99. Mike?
Kevin Harvick extremely happy with his race car. Gil Martin had radioed to him earlier. If he needed anything, he said, no, I don't need much. He's pretty good and has been moving forward since the last run.
Green flag pit stop, shuffling up the running order. Clint Bowyer has been on the racetrack and not yet stopped in the 15 car. And there he is, just coming off turn 4 now and onto the pit lane. Can't stay out there for too long when Edwards and Gordon and the other front runners have stopped. Here's Mark Martin in first.
Well, they really worked on this car all night long after the early damage. He's been fighting loose the last stop or two, and they've been working on it to try to tighten it up for him. There was the chassis adjustment, 4 Goodyear tires and Sunoco fuel for Martin. Jamie?
Clint Bowyer loves his race car. His crew's getting the job done on pit road tonight. 4 tires and Sunoco fuel. 12.1. Awesome stop once again for the 15, Alan.
That's a great stop, Jamie. They are getting it done tonight. So we've stayed green through another cycle of pit stops for the leaders, and that puts you-know-who back up front. Desperately wanting a caution to get back in sync with these other leaders now on tires. Joey Logano back to the #1 spot. We are just across halfway tonight in the Advocare 500 at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Logano, the current leader. We've had 15 different lead changes. 11 different drivers have swapped the top spot. The caution has waved 4 times in the race, though they were all fairly early. We haven't seen a caution since lap 76. We are now almost 100 laps from that point, and 2 green flag sets of pit stops in. Major stories on the night. Troubles for some of the bubble drivers early in the race. Kasey Kahne, you saw a minute ago, was back in the garage for a while with damage on his car. Jimmie Johnson's got a heavily damaged car. He's sort of limping around. And the point standings have kind of flopped back and forth a number of times in the ebbs and flows of the competition tonight.
Yeah, Matt Kenseth there in that 20 car, even though he's got the most wins, have been very good on the 1.5 miles. So he's got a real issue with the right front of him. He thought he had a flat earlier. That's not it. They've got a real problem.
Now, the biggest problem he's got now, he's got more laps on his tires trying to run around cars that have new tires. What else are they struggling with, Dave?
I called it earlier as hard to drive per Matt. Now he says it's out of control, so they're not having a great night. And, you know, most of the teams that are locked into the chase or very nearly locked in have the opportunity to do a little R&D, and this is one crew chief that confirmed, well, we're not going to be afraid of doing that, but we still want to run well.
And sometimes when you research, the results you find are not acceptable. And Kenseth out there on the older tires and sliding back as well with that ill-handling car. Joey Logano came into this night 10th in the standings in that last qualified spot on points for the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. Right now his lead on Clint Bowyer's 1.6 seconds. Bowyer with the pressure tires trying to eat that chunk of ground up.
Yeah, it won't take him long to do it because he beat him by well over a second that last time.
Another stop for Matt Kenseth, Dave.
Crew Chief Jason Ratcliffe told me that somebody's going to hit it tonight with the little lack of practice on this track over the course of the year. They were hoping they'd be the one. So far, it's been a struggle for Kenseth.
That got off sequence with the other leaders earlier, just like Logano. While Logano has sort of held his ground, Matt has not.
You know, the other thing that makes this difficult, they talk about the once a year here, they've got a new car here, they've got a different tire here, and their practice all happens during the daylight hours, and here you are racing at night, Andy.
Yeah, about the only thing you can do is go back to last year's notes, but like I said, with the new tire, new car, none of that really applies, so it is very difficult.
This won't take long.
No. You can hear Joe Logano just pedaling, trying to keep the car under him.
It's about right now that Logano is really wishing the caution would come out because he knows everybody's been out there long enough to come get 4 tires again. And not beat the caution. You always have to be careful when you're fishing for things like that.
Well, Clint Bowyer's having a good time with his 15 car tonight.
Rain coming? No. 99's got a clean track running 90. 2 tenths quicker than that, man. Just take care of it. That's all you got to do.
He wants this thing over now while he's in the #1 spot. Bad news, Clint.
Not gonna be
Radar's
that
looking
easy.
clear.
A lot of racing left.
And putting Montoya a lap down. Montoya who led and was running first, second, third for a lot of the early stages of this race. Long way to go, though. A lot of racing still to be done tonight here in Atlanta, but Clint Boyer's leading right now.
Thanks for hanging out with us tonight in Atlanta. 146 to go with Clint Bowyer, your leader. But let's talk bubble trouble, because a number of our drivers coming into the night needing to have solid nights to be safe when it comes to the chase have struggled, including Joey Logano. First 2 pit stops, the crew lost ground, and then they had a loose wheel. So right now, Logano is in second, but he's on an alternate pit strategy. Pit contact for Ryan Newman.
Yeah, take a look at these guys leaving the pit. So Ryan Newman's got his right front fender caved in. The team's doing a great job getting it pulled out. They got Ryan back, and actually still good.
Then we saw Kasey Kahne on a restart, get into the back end of the 48, busted the oil cooler as well as the radiator. Tough night for Kasey Kahne. Right now, he's 39th position, 33 laps down.
And then there's this little incident for Greg Biffle. Whoops, right through his pit box.
Yeah, he just got in there too deep and missed the pit box. Had to back up, and man, on a stop, this cost you so much time.
Now, we get to cheat a little bit because we get to see this bubble all throughout the race. And let me tell you, it changes almost every lap. Who's in, who's out.
Yeah.
And we still have one race to go before we get to the chase.
I can tell you, you can't predict anything right now. There's so much passing going on the racetrack right now. We talked about Brad Keselowski coming in. We talked about Jeff Gordon. Right now, they're 10th and 11th with Keselowski in. And this is going to change throughout the night. We're going to know finally when it's all over. But Richmond next week, wow, it's going to be nuts there.
Yeah, the 78, the 2, and Greg Biffle all have gotten their rides neatened up a little bit and are running much better. So it's interesting. We got 143 laps to go. It's going to be interesting to find out what happens.
And if we think tonight's interesting, just wait until next week, Alan.
Yeah, well, I truly can't wait for Richmond next Saturday night to see how this all turns out. It has the potential to be a really fun night for us and stressful night on these bubble drivers. Now, speaking of stressful, we talked about at the start of this Atlanta telecast what a difficult night this was for the drivers, how hard they worked behind the wheel at such high speeds. And now we've been over 100 laps without a caution flag.
Yeah, it's really difficult for the drivers. I mean, you've got to stay focused, but you're only getting a small break every once in a while here to get things going. But I tell you, it makes for a long, long night.
Clint Bowyer still leading this race.
I know you don't want to hear this, but I think it's laying down.
Ooh. Yeah, he says. I think he's talking about the motor. It's probably on his mind because they're running some stuff that's probably not proven yet. But he ran the fastest lap of the race, just the last lap. And I think one thing that happens is these tires, if the track slows down, it changes the tone of that engine. He may be okay, but what does he think it is, Dave? Or Jamie, I'm sorry.
Well, the team just said, well, he's the driver, he's leading the race, and he's hearing ghosts. So it's natural for us to hear that from Clint Bowyer. So they're having fun with it. But meanwhile, crew chief Brian Patty is saying, hey, everything's fine. Just chill out, back it down a little bit. You have great lap times, so you can back it off, and you'll be just fine. So they're keeping an eye on it, though.
You never want to hear that, but you look at the lap times don't lie. I mean, if the car's sick, it'll tell you in that.
I'd say two things. One, I think we've all figured out Clint Bowyer can be a little excitable, right? You agree with that?
Okay.
The other thing goes back to what I was talking about, those tires. Well, he knows he's got something different under the hood, too, and that's just a driver's mentality. When something's not exactly right, you go to whatever's new and different.
And that topic of conversation of the tone of the engine changing at this racetrack, that's not new. This is something we've talked about in years past here.
Yes, and it does pretty much every single time that you're running there. And Andy was talking about it, because you get slowed down, you might not get back to the throttle exactly right, and that changes the tune and the sound that you're getting as a driver. Wearing the earplugs, but they're very tuned in to the sound of that and exactly how it feels.
You see the different pit stop schedules. The first and second place drivers are on, Clint Bowyer and Joey Logano. Remember, Logano had to make that unscheduled stop with the vibration with the loose lug nuts, a loose wheel on his left rear a little earlier that set him off sync, and he hasn't gotten the caution to get back in sync with the leaders. That said, I'm still incredibly impressed that 22 has held second place.
I am too. I think they're just doing a really good job of minimizing the damage of having that early pit stop and keeping that car in contention.
You know, I'm impressed by that, too. The other thing I'm impressed by is this tire. We have seen no problems whatsoever, really, from anybody and we've seen a lot of green flag racing here and a lot of fast times.
Kyle Busch has had his share of hard work behind the wheel tonight. He's running in 10th place right now, but like I said about his brother earlier, it hasn't been easy.
Never is. You're always going to have these type moments. Whoa, that's a big one there.
Nice recovery.
That's the great thing about having a racetrack like this. It creates that situation, but then you've got room to save the car.
Kyle, one of the drivers, looking to try and clinch his place in the chase tonight. Anyone leading 11th place by 49 points or more at the end of the night is in and doesn't have to sweat it out next Saturday night in Richmond. Racing Ryan Newman there for a spot. Of course, Newman still looking to race his way in. And right now, the way that this night is unfolded, Newman is out of the wild card positions at the moment, even though he's having a good race tonight.
Yeah, made a nice recovery, having to fix both. Really, the right front got the most damage on that pit road incident, but the left front had some damage. They made a nice recovery, got themselves inside the top 10 here.
Was as low as 40th earlier in the race.
Yeah, they've made a lot of ground.
There's Danica Patrick. Started toward the back of the field, running in 23rd place right now, just a lap down to the race leader. And again, basically holding station with where she started this race.
Yeah, she's really done a nice job. This we talk about the difficulty of the racetrack. If you don't have experience racing here, that's all you can do is get laps and learn more, and she's done a nice job. Just one lap down so far.
Kansas Clint Bowyer might be glad that this is a holiday weekend, because if he wins this race, the party might go on for a while.
I just saw some smoke out of that 15, though, right there. Maybe Clint did know what he was talking about. Right there.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All done.
Shut it off so they can check it, okay?
Caution is out.
Wow.
Oh, that's too bad. He was running fastest, some of the fastest laps on the racetrack right until then.
Leading the race.
Well, he felt something. He knew something.
He sure
wrong.
did, yeah. That's I'm sure that's the stuff that Toyota people were really hoping would kind of set them on fire for the chase scenario, and those Toyotas are going to be in that. Jamie?
Well, this could be related. I'm not sure, but when I was talking to Brian Patty earlier today, the Toyota guys were surrounding the car, and he told me they're running the same engine that Denny Hamlin was running in practice. Well, Denny had an issue. They had to pull that experimental engine, put a backup engine in, and he went to the back. So they were a little concerned, but they had nothing to lose. So Brian Patty was optimistic that they would try something new and it could work. As you see there, all the gauges seemed to be fine, but all of a sudden he smelled it in the cockpit and knew he was blowing up.
Leading the race.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah,
2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, last week he was leading at Bristol. Got into a little confrontation.
Got hit by a lap car from behind and crashed.
Yeah, but that's it. The 99 car. Carl Edwards was leading last week when he had engine issues there. I think it just shows the importance of these races, of these teams and drivers that are locked in, trying some things to try to get some type of slight advantage as they head into the chase.
Yeah, and they need to prove it, too. They don't need to have that kind of problem in the chase.
Joey Logano's team, chance to redeem themselves here. He gets the caution before he has to make the green flag pit stop. They're back on cycle with everybody else. They're going to pit as the leader. Now they got to get the job done.
Yeah, now they have to execute. They've had some problems on pit road. They left the wheel loose. All that's behind them. They're the leader. They've got, this is the time that it really counts that they make a good pit stop.
Pit road is closed because Clint Bowyer went coasting through there, dropping some liquid. And they want to make sure they can check that out and make sure there's nothing there before they send everybody down the pit lane.
Yeah, and in talking about that blown in, he did a nice job of saving that car down into turn one. Not a worse place for that to happen as you enter the corner.
Yeah. There are the numbers. And again, those last two stops, those are green flag pit stops when he was off sync with the leader. So this caution, a huge, huge break for the 22 team. And we come back to, again, that bubble story. Sometimes you got to have a little good luck, too.
Goes back a little bit, too. Yeah, you got to have that on your side. But Alan, you were talking about these drivers that 112 laps of green flag racing. They're glad to be able to take a drink and just take a breath right now. And some of them are glad that they're going to have an opportunity under caution now again to work on their cars as we've gotten into the nighttime and this racetrack has changed.
I think it's this caution's a break for Jeff Gordon, too, because he lost some ground during one of those runs under green where his car wasn't right. And he's been good ever since. And now that we have this caution, for him to catch back up, I think it's a break for him.
Pit road is clear and is open this time. So the stops are going to come with 130 laps to go. Logano, Edwards, Gordon, Harvick, McMurray, the top 5 coming in, Dave.
Third place, Gordon's car was a little bit tight, and the crew had a wrench in their hand to make a track bar adjustment, but he said, I don't want to be too loose. Air pressure only in 4 tires. Jamie?
And Carl Edwards getting too tight on the short and long run. 4 tire stop here, track bar up and air pressure adjustment. Mike?
Kevin Harvick has been extremely pleased with his race car over the last couple of runs. No adjustments this time around. The last time the only adjustment they made was a very slight air pressure adjustment. Just 4 tires, Vince.
Joey Logano likes it, but he could use a little more front steer, so they make an air pressure adjustment on those 4 tires and a race off pit road. It looks like Logano's going to come off third.
Had to swing around that 78 car trying to get out of his pit stall, Vince. And it cost him a little ground.
Jeff Gordon in second again, though. That hadn't been too good for him.
Yeah. So you're saying this restart will probably be pretty interesting?
Could be.
Maybe he shouldn't have raced him so hard to the line.
About to restart the Admiral Care 500 at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Fans, be sure to go to NASCAR.com for all your latest NASCAR information. You'll find Carl Edwards, the race leader, with Jeff Gordon getting that first spot on the outside row again for this restart. So Joey Logano went from first to third on the pit stop.
Yeah, they had a good pit stop, and he was going to be close to keeping the lead, but he had to go around the 78, spun the tires there, tried to not hit anyone or get into the other 2 cars.
So Logano will be on the inside row behind Carl Edwards as they come to the green.
Jeff Gordon again, just not get going on the outside. The other thing he's not doing is pulling all the way up beside the 99 on his restart.
And I think he's laying back a little bit, trying to anticipate and get a little more of a rolling start to where it's just not giving it all the gas and spinning the tires as much there.
Gordon and Logano for second. Keselowski and McMurray for fourth. While you watch this, let's talk to the man who, for the second week in a row, finds himself with troubles leading the race. Jamie?
Led 48 laps tonight. We talked about it. It was an experimental engine. The good thing is you're locked into the chase, Clint, but at this point, do you feel like it's beneficial for you to be the guinea pig?
Well, it certainly sucks. You know, it's part of it. I mean, everybody has engine issues. We're pushing hard for the chase to try to win a championship, certainly, you know, in the engine category with our chassis, everything. Real proud of Patty and all the gang. It was off a little bit. I think we were probably a 6th or 10th place car yesterday. I told him I wanted to make some adjustments and go for a win. Man, as soon as the track, went into the 9th there, it gained some grip, and our car really took off. It was ours to lose, and unfortunately, we found a way to lose. I'm going to have a beer.
All right. Great battle for the lead. I'm going to go back to you guys on that note.
Oh, we love him. How about this race? Jeff Gordon's car looks good right now up top.
Talk about coming alive. Man. Lap ago, he ran off of turn 2 down the backstretch, caught and almost cleared Carl Edwards till Carl ran back at him. Now they're playing aero games.
Oh, now. Logano's going to take advantage of it down on the bottom now.
I'm not sure Jeff Gordon will appreciate that.
Not at all.
But remember, early in the race, Gordon drove into 1 and 2 under Edwards and slid up and squeezed him off just like that.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
I know. We remember that. Do you think Carl Edwards in there going 200 miles an hour remember something like that?
Absolutely.
Okay. And you're right.
Now Logano and Edwards for the lead.
He did tighten it up a little bit. You see Keselowski's getting in the picture, too.
But when Gordon gets back there, he's not going to remember that first part down there. I'm sure he didn't think that was quite as bad. He's going to remember just what happened a minute ago. It's like Brad Keselowski's made his car a little bit better.
Logano clears Edwards. Joey Logano to the race lead. I started to touch on this story earlier, and something happened on the racetrack, and we had to jump away from it. But right there, you're looking at 3 Fords in the top 4. Earlier this summer, the Fords were kind of lagging behind the Chevys and the Toyotas in performance. And as they come to the time of the year when the championship's going to be played out, seems like they found a little something.
Yeah, I know Doug Yates has been working extremely hard on the engine, and not saying that they were down on that, but I know he keeps finding things, and Doug is always one that wants to be ready when it comes championship time. But they also were working hard on the aero side of it, and they kind of got together between Roush and Penske organization and started sharing some notes, and I think that has helped both organizations with their race cars.
Trouble, turns 3 and 4. Denny Hamlin.
Hold the brake, let it roll, let it roll.
And the only one involved.
What a struggle this has been this whole year for Denny Hamlin.
He was running 21st. He was a lap down. Remember earlier in the race, Hamlin had that situation with pitting out of the box while they were working to repair that damage on the right side of his car, and the dispute between Hamlin's team and the NASCAR
look at these
officials.
two cars right here. These two cars had an issue earlier in the race.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
No doubt about what that was.
Yeah.
A little payback.
Isn't that interesting?
I have to think that goes back to that earlier contact they had, and Menard's car got really torn up in that.
And he does a nice job of staying in the throttle and keeping it out of the wall right there to create any further damage.
That was the one from earlier.
I don't know if he maybe thought Denny ran him up there.
Well, there was contact there, and I think Menard thought he had the outside, and Denny Hamlin was down the inside. It looked like Denny just slid up there, and you always have to be careful of that. I mean, that's what happens at Atlanta a lot. You kind of anticipate that guy knows you're there, but you don't always. You can see now that as he flattened that tire in the spin, created a bad situation for right front fender, and a lot pitting, and a couple stayed out.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, this
leaders
changed it up.
Everybody else is in, Dave.
Jeff Gordon said, yeah, that freed it up. He thinks he overheated the right rear a little bit, so they're going to make a minor chassis adjustment, give him 4 tires and fuel as well, wedge in the left rear.
And Brad Keselowski just wants to work on this car to help make it better. They made a wedge adjustment and air pressure last stop, so just working on it. They were having issues mid-race. Meanwhile, the 29's in.
And no adjustments once again. Kevin Harvick, 4 tires and fuel. Very happy with his race car as he rolls away.
$17 cars on the lead lap, 15 of them on pit road there. The top 2 stayed out, Joey Logano and Carl Edwards. And that's going to be really interesting when they wave the green flag.
Yeah, let's see how this works out.
Yeah, 24 did not have a good pit stop there. Jeff Gordon lost a lot.
Free pass to Greg Biffle, who will get back on the lead lap under this yellow flag. And next weekend in Richmond, Virginia, we'll find out who the 12 drivers will be that will contest for the championship. That is next weekend in Richmond. Don't forget tomorrow, the finals of the biggest drag race of the year, the Chevy Performance NHRA US Nationals. At noon Eastern on ESPN2 tomorrow, final eliminations. Then it's Richmond. Nationwide Series Friday night at 7 Eastern on ESPN. And, of course, that 400 lapper to decide who'll be in the chase on ABC next Saturday at 7 Eastern time from Richmond. Going to be a fun night.
Oh, yes.
Jeff Gordon not having as much fun on this round of pit stops. His crew has been excellent so far tonight, but it hiccuped a little bit this time.
Up to this point, they'd had a 12.3 average of all their pit stops. The right side goes pretty smooth. So they're making a chassis adjustment on the left rear. You see the tire carrier put the wrench in the window, and it looks like it may have just upset the timing just a little bit. So they lost a little bit of time there.
So instead of the 12.3 13.3 average. It was 13.9 for that stop and kicked Gordon from 3rd back to 8th on the pit stops. Jeff Gordon and Carl Edwards had an interesting moment in that last green flag run of the race, which references back to earlier in the race when Gordon drove in and did a little slide on Carl.
He drove it in hard, thought that he had enough clearance there, but you can see Carl Edwards was pretty nice there and gave him that spot.
And then this one a little bit ago. Wasn't very happy.
Ask a 99 what his problem is. Don't worry about it, bud. Just keep racing him hard. You're doing an awesome job, man. Somebody needs to explain to that dumb who the he think he is, man. I'm telling you, that's me off right there. You got 10-4, we'll let him know.
Nothing like the heat of competition, right? Jamie?
Well, Carl Edwards, he had a couple words, but it was definitely mellow. He just said, what the heck is the 24 thinking? Why is he door checking me? What's his problem tonight? And now he's changed his focus to his car, and he's saying he's too tight to compete with the guys around him, asking Jimmy Fennig, his crew chief, to please take a big swing at it. We need to do something here.
Always two sides when you got two drivers. Seldom are they going to agree when something happens like that.
They are competitive people by nature. And the other competitor's always wrong.
Yeah, and I can understand. I mean, he's questioning Jeff Gordon Dorche at this point in time. I think when it's for the lead and Jeff Gordon needing to lead some laps and be up there, it's important that I understand what Jeff was doing at that point in time. Not saying either one of them right wrong, but that's...
Well, I think Carl's got bigger problems right now. He's got guys behind him on fresh tires. I think what they thought, Logano and Edwards, they thought maybe they could keep everybody on the racetrack by not coming down, but didn't really fool anybody behind them.
12 laps between them. Logano, the leader. Edwards, the second place car, didn't pit under this caution. They stopped at lap 195. Everybody else in at 207.
We've seen Logano kind of hold his own on old tires tonight at times, but I just don't think they're going to be able to do it right now.
And again, Greg Biffle, the free pass on this caution, one of those bubble drivers in the race to the chase.
Edwards out of control right there off turn 2.
See, I think 22 and the 99 are just going to be in the way on these older tires.
Yeah, we've seen Logano's car be awfully good on older tires, but he's no match against. I mean, he's got so many there coming at him. You get yourself a lot of trouble that way.
Brad Keselowski to the race lead for the first time tonight.
We knew Kevin Harvick would show up there sometime before the night was over. Here he is in that 3rd spot.
He took the green flag in this race back in 30th place, did Harvick.
Well, I think Carl Edwards really paid the price for not pitting. Logano's holding up pretty good. I'm actually shocked that he's able to hold on as well as he has so far. I don't understand why they wouldn't pit it, because it's just historically we know when you come here that any laps on the tires you're going to give up a ton of grip, and people around you are going to come down pit road.
Joey Logano hanging on in 2nd place for the moment, Vince.
Well, one thing that Todd Gordon, the crew chief for Logano, has expressed throughout the course of this race is that Logano's car is competitive lap time-wise during the stretch of the run. In fact, last time they decided, or this time rather, when they decided not to come, Gordon told Logano, we were competitive with our lap times and our tires were 20 laps older. I think we're going to be just fine. Gave him a little pep talk to help him out.
I have to wonder a couple of things. Did their pit crew, with some of the struggles they've had tonight, have anything to do with that decision? And the other thing is, I don't know why you'd want to put your drive. This is stressful enough when you've got good tires on it, but you put yourself in that position. Doing a great job so far, though.
And Vince mentioned, we've talked about it already tonight, really, this car's shown the ability on older tires to hold its track position better than just about anyone else we've seen try it.
Yeah, just for comparison, the 99 car, Carl Edwards, he's 12th right now. They started on the front row together. So, yeah, I mean, Joey Logano's car is really good on older tires. It's really good, period, tonight.
So there's the two Penske cars running first and second. Both of them struggling to try and secure a place in the chase. Right now, running first and second tonight. Logano, a winner at Michigan a couple of races ago. Keselowski, the reigning series champ, still looking for his first trophy of 2013 in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Coming up on 350 miles in Atlanta tonight, our telecast presented by Pennzoil. Our Sprint Cup Series racing tonight at the Atlanta Motor Speedway with still 102 laps to go in tonight's race. It's been an interesting night if you haven't been with us so far. This was a restart where Jeff Gordon was leading the outside lane, didn't get going, and the accordion collected his teammate Kasey Kahne. Also damaged Jimmie Johnson's car pretty heavily. And Clint Bowyer leading this race when that happened.
Yeah, they had an engine in there that they were trying to prove out. It was proven to be pretty powerful, but just not reliable enough.
So Kahne back on the track, 32 laps down in 39th place. Bowyer done for the race. Right now still showing ahead of Kahne in 38th. Time for unlimited access to the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series with NASCAR Mobile 13 and unlimited talk, text, and data on the Sprint Network. Been trading that lead back and forth a lot tonight. Brad Keselowski out in front at the moment. That number boosted a little bit by some green flag pit stops. Get unlimited access to NASCAR with the NASCAR Mobile 13 app. Join the family with the unlimited My Way plan, guaranteed for life and only from Sprint. See sprint.com/speed for details. So let's give you a look at the 18 cars that are on the lead lap at the moment. Brad Keselowski, the race leader. Started the night on the outside of the top 10, currently in the top 10 and leading the race. Joey Logano has had his ups and downs tonight.
Yeah, it really has a fast race car, but certainly getting the job done, and older tires than everyone else, but hanging on in second right now.
Got off sequence with all the other leaders earlier, went a loose wheel by his pit crew. Kevin Harvick, 30th to 3rd.
Yeah, he's kind of hit his high water mark of the night so far, sitting there in 3rd spot. I expected him to be good tonight after what we saw him do last night.
Ryan Newman running in 4th, had to have right front fender repaired after some pit contact.
Yeah, on the very first pit stops of the night after the competition yellow. This might be the most impressive run of the night. We talked about everything Logano's done. How about Ryan Newman and this team? Going to take over the 3rd spot from Kevin Harvick right now, trying to get themselves in position to get a second win, get one of those wild card spots.
So Newman up to 3rd, Harvick back to 4th. We won't sing happy birthday, but we'll wish happy birthday to the 5th place runner currently, Marcus Ambrose.
Ambrose doing a nice job. He was actually a lap down earlier when Clint Bowyer was leading. When he blew up, got him back on the lead lap, and he's parlayed that into a top 5 right now.
37 candles on the cake today for Ambrose. Challenging Ambrose for a spot, Dale Earnhardt Jr. running 6th.
Yeah, this is as good as we've seen him all night long. He's actually pulling away from Jeff Gordon, who's behind him. Jeff's had a great car tonight. Actually, Jeff's falling back now.
Gordon has been passed by Kyle Busch. Kyle has had his struggles tonight with the handles on this car, but hangs in there.
Yeah, pit crew made a good pit stop. The last caution we had gained him some spots on pit road. He's looks like he's a little better on the racetrack too.
Jeff Gordon's had a really fast car, but a couple times they've gotten off sequence, and this last time they had a tough pit stop.
Yeah, and they've had 2 runs, and this is one of them, where they haven't been that good. And the other runs, they've been really about as fast or faster than anybody.
And we saw them make an adjustment, and you mentioned that might have thrown them off a little bit. It certainly threw the car off this time.
Kurt Busch started 32nd in that 78 car. He's running in 9th.
Kind of been an up and down night for Kurt.
Trying to race his way into the top 10 in points.
If they can just stay solid here tonight and not have anything else happen, they'll give themselves a chance to drive into the top 10 at Richmond next week.
Right behind him, that white car, is Jamie McMurray. Very solid night. Saw him as high as third earlier in the race.
Looks like they just haven't kept up with the racetrack maybe quite as good as they need to, because they looked like they were a solid top 5 car earlier on, but a lot of things have changed and adjustments sometimes don't work.
Little deeper, Juan Pablo Montoya running in 11th spot. Montoya led 36 laps in this race, but has struggled with the handles of this car through the middle stages of the race.
Yeah, he was great in the beginning. He was terrible in the middle, and now he's back to being pretty decent.
Challenge for position here. 6th place.
Hey, Kyle's got this 18 car on the move.
Well, we heard him earlier. He wasn't very happy with his car in the center. Whenever he picked up the throttle down on the yellow line, he just wanted to shove the nose and wasn't allowing him to carry the speed off the corner. But looks like some adjustments have helped that.
Quick check back on the rest of the lead lap cars. A.J. Allmendinger signed the deal and announced to drive this 47 car for Tad Geschichter and Jody Geschichter and Brad Daugherty for next season, running in 12th.
Yeah, he's been a solid car all night. We saw him inside the top 20 certainly, and continues to move forward and doing a very nice job for this team.
Really nice recovery for Jeff Burton in the 31, lead lap and 13th.
Yeah, and that wreck that we saw, that big accordion wreck that took out Casey Kane, I thought that, well, you see the damage on the 31. I thought he was going to be just basically out there riding around, but he's hanging right in there on the lead lap, 13th.
Very solid drive for David Gilliland, Front Row Motorsports, 38 car. He's 14th. Running ahead of what would be his best Sprint Cup Series finish of his career at this racetrack.
Another Ford doing well tonight.
McMurray and Kurt Busch going to trade the 9th place and 10th place. McMurray moving up and Kurt slipping back 1. Other lead lap cars, Martin Truex Jr., Brian Vickers, Greg Biffle, and Carl Edwards all the way back to 18th and last on the lead lap after being the leader at the last restart a little earlier. Brad Keselowski is the leader now. The NASCAR Sprint Cup champ in search of his first win of the season, out in front of his Penske teammate Joey Logano by a second and a half. The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series at the Atlanta Motor Speedway past the 350-mile mark of tonight's 500-miler. Our telecast presented by Pennzoil. You're looking at the race for the lead. Joey Logano in that yellow and red car beginning to chase down his Penske teammate, Brad Keselowski, approaching another set of green flag pit stops. Take a look at the danger zone brought to you by Nationwide Insurance. Been a lot of danger zones in this race tonight. Early in the race, the caution flag waved a lot. And restarts have been a particularly dangerous zone.
Yeah, front straightaway was definitely dangerous there for a while.
See, currently 30 laps into a green flag run. Logano and Carl Edwards did not pit at the last caution flag that happened only about 10 laps after the lead lap cars had pitted before. They were the only two that stayed out. Logano held his track position. Edwards has not. Problem is now, we're going to have to see this 22 car on pit lane very shortly.
Yeah, once again, they're going to find themselves in a precarious position, having to go on pit road and get a lap down for a time being. But if they ever get back on the cycle and stay on the cycle with fresh tires there, they by far are the class of the field. Right now, Tuck's got a problem.
Oh, he's probably just giving him the spot, possibly. Anything wrong with the 2, Jamie?
He says he is blowing up. Down his cylinder, losing power. He said, I'm going to keep running it. He's talking on the radio right now. He said, down 2 cylinders at this point, telling him to keep digging. Remember, he's on the bubble, hasn't won a race yet this year, on the verge of not making the chase, and he's the defending Sprint Cup Series champion. Right now, he sits 10th in points, but guys, if the car continues to run like it is right now, his night is over.
Yeah, and his chase hopes are over, too. Gosh, what a bad break. That's two times we've seen the leader have engine issues tonight.
Would put this team in position of basically having to go to Richmond and win, or have a lot of things fall in their favor in just the right way.
Could win and still not work out.
Yeah.
You'll be rear grip with that engine like that? You're fine. I'll give you some lap times here, trying to find a minimum speed. You single car to your right. Yes, I do. And I'm just like Richmond here.
He's running about a second faster than the minimum speed that NASCAR is posted for this race. I think it was 35.99. Ran about a 34.99 last lap. 34 or 35.29. So he.
Did I try rebooting the ECU, Paul?
He's shaking his head. No, I mean, it doesn't hurt, but you don't think that's going to fix it.
All my gauges are fine. I don't know, dude.
Well, Brad's still out there, falling back to 7th place and more. And we'll see how long they're able to keep it up.
225 water.
And if they're able to find a solution. 4th place here, Kyle Busch continuing to move forward.
Certainly is. They've really made this car a lot better.
And Carl Edwards will come to pit road. Expect to see Logano shortly also. Remember, they did not stop at 207 when the other leaders did. Jamie?
And Carl's main complaint is the car just won't turn. Suffered tremendously there. You saw 2 rounds there. They raised the track bar up to try to help him. He's just tight through the center. Is such an issue for him. 4 tires, they filled him up, and hopefully this will bring him forward as he was hoping. 12.7, Alan.
Now we'll see when Logano stops. It'll be soon. What an up and down night for this team. Fast race car. Problems on pit road 3 different times. And they've gotten themselves, for a second time in this race, out of cycle with the rest of the pack on tires and tire speed.
Go one more.
Such a huge factor here in Atlanta.
Yeah, and if they didn't have enough things going on with all of that, then now their teammate has had an engine issue, and they have to be somewhat concerned about that. Nothing they can do. They have to just continue to run. But we've seen it so many times here at Atlanta. We talk about the high speeds. That means high RPMs that you carry here for a long time, and really puts a strain on these engines.
I expect to see Joey Logano making that pit stop here, probably this lap. He'll still have to make one more, as will everyone else.
Gambling on something happening to bring out the caution?
Yeah, there must be something out there that they're seeing or thinking.
They're probably watching their teammate think it's going to blow up.
Yeah. Well, Keselowski's going to come in, and we should see Logano here in as well. Jamie?
And watch them raise the hood here. He said he was losing oil pressure there. Tough break for Brad Keselowski. Finally got to the front. They are still making those adjustments. His car was pretty tight. They're going to run it out, though, and see if they can salvage these points. Not raising the hood. They're going to let him dig, and you can definitely hear he's down a couple cylinders.
Green flag pit stops for some of the other leaders a little bit earlier than before. Dave?
Kyle Busch will give up 4th place. He said right now the car is loose if you want to point to one thing, so there must be a few, but they'll just make an air pressure adjustment, Vince.
The 22 of Joey Logano won 2 weeks ago at Michigan, 5th last week at Bristol. Tight across the center and free off. Some wedge out and 4 tires with Sunoco fuel for Joey Logano.
Ambrose and Junior and Gilliland and Harvick in. Mike?
And Greg Biffle as well. Oh, near collision with Kevin Harvick on pit road as Biffle exited and the 29 came down pit road. A very close call for a car that had been good throughout the night, although Kevin Harvick, for the first time in quite some time, had expressed some disappointment. The car was a little bit tight during that run. They'll make an air pressure adjustment. 4 tires, Vince.
The 39 of Ryan Newman, you see him going away there. 4-tire change, air pressure adjustment. He likes the car. They've been a hard charger since that early pit road contact.
The rush continues. Truex on and off the pit lane. Montoya took over the race lead when Newman pitted. Now he's on the pit lane. Mike?
And what a roller coaster day he's had as well. The balance of that car has gone from loose to tight, back to loose, and still a little bit snug now. They'll make very small changes, just an air pressure adjustment. 4 tires in Sunoco race field to the 42.
You know, Andy, what we're seeing here is that when Logano pitted, the speed he would have on fresh tires pulled everybody else in.
Yeah, that put him back in sequence with everybody. He's been trying to get on par with everybody all night long after he had that one loose wheel. Still throwing sparks on the bottom of the racetrack.
But that cycle now has worked out in Logano's favor, and he reassumes the #1 spot in this race. 71 laps to go at the Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Loans ESPN Pit Studio with Rusty and Brad. I am Nicole, keeping a very close eye on those bubble guys tonight, and a few of them have had a fair share of problems out there, including Ryan Newman. Earlier in the race, contact on pit road.
Yeah, that really messed up his right front fender, bending in pretty hard. The guys, you see they're working on the car. They took their time. They got the fender out. Aerodynamically, the car is doing good right now. He's running fast in 3rd position.
Yeah, we saw this jam up earlier. Kasey Kahne got into the back of Jimmie Johnson, ended up busting the oil cooler as well as the radiator, and absolutely ended his days. 32 laps now at the present time.
And the biggest issue of the night so far goes to Brad Keselowski, who right now is 1 lap down and down a few cylinders.
Yeah, I'm in really total disbelief right now. This 2 car, our last year's champion, losing an engine right now, or an ECU unit he's talking about, electronics. No matter what, he's way back right now, and he's in big trouble. Look where he is in the points, all the way back to 13th, not where he wants to be at all.
That column on the right, the most important thing wins, especially when it comes to making the chase for the wild card, because right now it would be Kasey Kahne and Ryan Newman. We do want to point out that Joey Logano, who is currently the leader, kind of lucked out on that last one. He was able to work his way back onto the same pit strategy, and lucked out when he came down pit road. Pretty much everyone else followed him.
You're exactly right. And what's really helped, he's had a fast car all night long. He hit pit road for that pit stop, and everybody followed him in.
He ran 56 laps, Rusty, on those tires. This young man's showing a lot of talent, a lot of ability. You better watch out for Joey Logano.
Nice move by Ryan Newman there, getting around Kyle Busch, Alan.
I better watch out for Ryan Newman. That was a bold move.
Yeah, it sure was. And now we've got 2 drivers running 1st and 2nd in this race. Each one of them has 1 victory, trying to race their way into this chase. A 2nd victory would pretty much assure that of happening.
Would be big. So Newman by Kyle Busch for the #2 spot, 4 seconds behind Joey Logano. Solid drive for Newman tonight, Vince.
You know, Matt Borland talked to me before the race today about the fact that they were the 2nd wild card coming in. He said, but we feel like we've got to win one of these next 2 races to secure our spot in the chase, and we feel like tonight could be that night. They were very confident about the kind of car that they've had. We documented the early contact on pit lane, but they've worked on the car. They made a wedge adjustment on that last stop to help him turn a little better, and they have got this thing singing. What a great job by the 39 team tonight.
Brian talking earlier this weekend about the announcement earlier this week. Remember, it was in July when Newman was told he wouldn't be back at this team for next season, and the word that came out was they weren't ready to expand to a 4th team yet. And now, of course, the word coming down that the team will expand to a 4th car for next season. And Ryan basically said, look, my guys are all committed. I'm committed. We're racing till the final checkered flag at Homestead, and we're racing for a championship.
Yeah, and that's Ryan Newman. There's nobody better. I mean, he has, I think he's tied for the most poles here, so he knows how to go fast around this racetrack. I think with 7, with Buddy Baker maybe. Yep. And so he can get the job done. But this is an impressive run. I mean, they've had to really work to get this. And I think Ryan Newman, he's been pretty coy about what may be going on next year. Hearing a lot of talk that he has a deal pretty much done, but they're kind of keeping that under wraps, as I was talking about earlier, because I think it would help this race team try to keep their focus on what's really at hand, and that's making this chase.
moving forward, dropping back. 16, Greg Biffle moving forward. 99, Carl Edwards dropping back. Remember, Biffle was as low as 32nd earlier after they had a little traffic tangle on pit road that dropped him to the end of the pack. Biffle, one of those bubble drivers, has raced all the way back up to 14th. Edwards behind him since the restart. He had moved up to 9th on the cycle of pit stops. He's back to 15th.
Yeah, he's out to lunch right now. I don't know what's wrong with that 99. He is a little bit off sequence on tires. He pitted just a little earlier than most, but he's just trying to maintain right now, Jamie.
He is. The car has just been so tight it could barely turn. They made a big adjustment on that last stop. They went 2 rounds up on the track bar, and Carl said it's a little better, but just still tight. So he starts off a little better, but just continues to fall back.
Edwards, who has led more laps than anyone else in this race so far tonight, finds himself with a lot of ground to make up, back in 15th place with 56 laps to go. We're past 400 miles tonight here in the Advocare 500. Our NASCAR Sprint Cup Series coverage tonight presented by Pennzoil. Joey Logano in the Shell Pennzoil car is out in front.
Go this time by. 2 for you to make it or break it. If it sounds desperate, it's because it is. Tonight, there's only 1 point to be made. And it can only be made by winning.
And we're 50 laps away from finding out who the winner will be tonight as we see what's fresh off the wire, served by KFC. Some of the drivers competing in that bubble zone, inside or just outside of the spots that'll get them a place in the chase. It's not been an easy night for them. That's just a partial list. Jeff Gordon has run as high as second in this race, and right now finds himself back in 9th place.
And we're in big trouble here. This is by far the loosest we've been.
Gordon continuing to saw on the wheel in that 24.
Certainly his car was a lot better whenever he was on that tighter side.
Didn't you say earlier that would be a mistake? Was that about him or somebody else?
Yeah, I think maybe it was. Yeah, you have to be careful with that because this track just tends to loosen up. It loses grip. As the rubber goes down, as it cools off, you get freer. And they've been loosening that car up, just like we saw Jeff
Burton there, yeah. Kurt Busch, right now in 10th place in points, 12th on the racetrack, but he's got his hands full.
I don't know what to tell you. I don't have anything in here for grip. I got nothing. Loose in. How you want to pick up the gas? Slides the nose all the way through the center, just like this. And it snaps loose coming off. I can't even pass lap cars. Everything we're doing is just taking grip out of the car. We're getting nowhere fast. When's this race going to end?
That's got to be, as hard as these drivers work behind the wheel at this racetrack, that's got to be a popular sentiment.
Yeah, this place here will peg your frustration level as a driver. There's no doubt about that. And those are all things, Andy, as you hear as a crew chief, you've heard it many times, and but they're difficult to fix.
Yeah, he's got to hang on, though. He's sitting there just right inside the top 10. Yeah, they can't give up. That's the thing. And I think Kurt's not giving up. He's just very frustrated.
Yeah, that's where it'd be important for somebody to make him understand, hey, right now, I know you're frustrated. We're not very good, but we have ourselves in a position that we can control our own destiny when we go to Richmond next week and be a part of this chase.
Interesting storyline tonight. This race on a 1.5 mile track, and while they're not all identical and they all have their own unique personalities, 5 of the 10 races in the chase are on 1.5 mile tracks. Of the 5 races run on the 1.5 miles leading up to tonight, there are the winners, heavily dominated by Joe Gibbs Racing. But it's very fair to say tonight that this Penske car between the 2 mile track in Michigan where Joey Logano won and tonight's race in Atlanta, the laps Carl Edwards has led and so on, we've seen a new life out of some other folks on these tracks.
I tell you, Joey Logano is going to be dangerous in the chase, I think. I think I heard you say that, or Dale, I heard him say it. I think it's true. This team is on the upswing big time.
Well, Joe Gibbs, they made a change, and obviously letting Logano go at the end of last year, bringing Matt Kenseth over has been great for Matt Kenseth, but my gosh, they've put Joey Logano in a position that things are really good for him, and once again, he's showing everything that everybody thought that he was going to be whenever he came into this Sprint Cup Series and getting the job done.
Second win would be huge for Joey Logano. Second win would be huge for Ryan Newman.
And Ryan's shaving that lead down. You see that. Down to 1.7, now 1.6 seconds.
Kyle Busch looking to lock in his place in the chase tonight, in position to do so at the moment, running in third. There's Kevin Harvick, fourth, also in position to claim a hat tonight after starting back in 30th. Dale Earnhardt Jr. rounds out your top 5. Pit stops coming up. A little better than 50 miles to go in tonight's 500 miler at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. Caution flag has just been put out here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Jimmie Johnson spun in turn number 4 just after Carl Edwards made a green flag pit stop.
Yeah, you see here's Jimmie Johnson is approaching Jeff Burton. Burton's trying to get to pit road. Jimmie can't get slowed down to miss him.
Jeff Burton's overcome a lot. He was a part of that deal that happened early on the restart. It worked his way back into the top 10.
Yeah, he tried to get slowed up.
Hang on to that thing, baby. Hang on. Caution's out.
These cars are a lot harder to see, the driver, unless you put your hand out the window to signal that you're doing something. They're a lot harder to see in there. They've got a big spoiler on the back and makes it difficult for somebody right up next to them to see that you may be slowing down to come into the pits.
Pit stops with 36 laps to go. Remember the struggles Logano's teams had on pit road tonight. Not piling on, just fact. They've struggled on 4 pit stops tonight.
Yeah, he's lost about 10 spots on pit road earlier.
Dave?
Kyle Busch was third. He said his car was tight everywhere, though, so he'll need adjustments. It looks like it's going to be air pressure, perhaps a chassis adjustment on the left side. Mike?
And Harvick's car has been tight each of the last 2 runs. Last time down, they made a wedge adjustment. They're going to go back to wedge in 4 tires, Vince.
Ryan Newman a little snug, an air pressure adjustment and track bar for Newman. Joey Logano the leader. Logano is pretty good. He says it's a little free in lap traffic, but no changes for the 22. Logano is out, and let's see the race off pit lane. It's going to be tight, but Logano's not going to be the first to cross.
Had to swing around that 78 car again.
Kyle Busch, their team doing a great job.
And Ryan Newman will draw that outside lane for the restart that's been such a disadvantage tonight. Well, Logano was rolling, but by the time he swung around Kurt Busch, he couldn't get to that scoring line ahead of the other 2, Kyle Busch and Ryan Newman. NASCAR action is Friday and Saturday nights. The Nationwide Series Friday night, 7 Eastern ESPN. And the race to decide who's in the chase next Saturday at 7 Eastern. See that one on ABC from Richmond. Nice look at Olympic Park in downtown Atlanta, site of the '96 Summer Olympic Games, and a nice look at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, where tonight's 500 miler is down to its final 50 miles. A set of pit stops has changed the order of the top 3. Kyle Busch third to first. Ryan Newman holds second. Joey Logano first to third.
Yeah, Logano needs to just be patient right here, though. He has the best car by far. Don't run the tires off of it trying to make a pass too early. You got plenty of time.
Newman in the blue car, starting in that spot that's been such a disadvantage tonight. See if he's able to get it hooked up. 33 laps of racing left to go.
Kurt Busch go?
Wasn't he the one that said it couldn't be in soon enough for him?
Oh, trouble. Brian Vickers around. Safe. That's a long slide for Vickers from 12th place through the grass, but he didn't hit anything.
Hit him.
That doesn't happen often. We've seen it a couple of times tonight.
Remember, Brian started at the back of this field because of an engine change during the weekend on the 55.
Yeah, you can see Brian right here, right in heavy traffic. They were racing hard. Just lost it. I figured maybe he got some help, but he didn't.
Yeah, I think the help was that one car going by on his outside. It takes that, we talk about how important that right rear is for air for these cars. Somebody gets on the outside of you, it almost will suck your car right around, and there's nothing you can really do.
And Brian does a good job. He keeps driving it through the grass. Finally gets some traction on the pavement. Gets it turned around.
With 17, soon to be 18 cars on the lead lap, Brian will have to stop and regroup and get a set of tires. Brad Keselowski leading this race when they had some troubles under the hood earlier.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out, maybe diagnose what the problem is. They've got a little time here now. Pretty sure they can't do anything about it, but it doesn't hurt to take a look.
Yeah, and if that thing continuing to run, they kept themselves in a position, points-wise, that they could possibly have a chance next week when they go to Richmond, if anything good should happen with that. If it'll just continue to run throughout the night.
Right now, Brad, 20 points out of the 10th position. See Kurt Busch up to second, Ryan Newman back to fourth. Wild scramble after that last restart. What's it going to look like after this restart? We'll come back for it.
78 went from 10th to second, one lap.
Doubled up for the restart here in Atlanta. Want to quickly go back to the last restart. Kurt Busch, 78 car, took the green flag in 10th spot. He came out of it a lap later in second.
I want you to watch this now. He gets a little help. Junior spins the tires a little bit. So he gets by a couple of them, gets by Ryan Newman. Watch this.
That thing's next forward.
Unreal. Look at the run he gets.
Outside that one, back inside this one.
That's crazy.
Jammed up on the top, coming. Outside, you're all clear.
He never lifted. He never lifted.
Yeah, Montoya got a little loose there and held up some others, but he just passed the rest of them.
It's almost like a video game.
So now for this restart, for all that work, Kurt gets that dreaded outside front row spot here, outside his little brother Kyle.
Logano sitting there ready to pounce. Truex, though, ready to go.
3 wide for second.
Here goes Kurt again. That's that big run. He's got some momentum on the lead here.
About Montoya wanted to be a part of this again. He was strong early in the race, but kind of lost out of it in the middle.
Trouble behind them. Jeff Burton and Austin Dillon.
Hang on to it.
Richard Childress Racing teammates bring the caution flag out again.
Right rear go down, getting into 3.
That'll explain that.
Yeah, could have had something to do with whenever the 48 ran into the back of him. Could have got one of the quarter panels up on
that tire was going down under that caution. I thought it was the left rear, but it was the right rear. We're tore up here.
Sure did destroy that right rear. I think he had this is here, Jeff Burton. I think he had a right rear tire going down, and see, Austin Dillon was kind of committed to the outside. Just didn't have enough room.
And Burton had done such a great job to drive his car back into the top 10 before he was getting ready to make that green flag pit stop.
Jeff got all that right side damage, the earlier right side damage in a lap 30 restart jam.
And he also got tagged by Jimmy Johnson when he was trying to get to pit road, which brought out the caution after that long green run. Tough night for Jeff.
Yep. So a little rash of yellow fever here with 3 quick cautions all bunched together, and we probably haven't seen the last of the yellow flag yet, the way the intensity's bumped up on these restarts.
They all stay out there on these tires now that have a couple of cycles on them, even though hadn't been much green flag racing.
There's been so much going on. Let me catch up on a couple of things. Matt Kenseth got a free pass a couple of cautions ago back on the lead lap. Ricky Stenhouse got a free pass the prior caution back on the lead lap. And I'll check on who's this time.
Kurt Busch did a pretty good job on that last restart from the outside. I mean, he still didn't get going as good as the inside lane, but boy, once they got to the corner, he was gone.
I think it's supposed to be Austin Dillon that gets the free pass here. We'll see if he does. Junior's going to pit from 10th place. Bring a few in with him.
It's a pretty good move.
Dave?
They don't want or need fuel in the 24 car, just 4 fresh tires, and Jeff will be good to go. Mike?
Greg Biffle on pit road, making some final adjustments here. The car has been a little bit snug over the course of that run, trying to free it up. Vince?
Happy with the 88 for Dale Earnhardt Jr. Just want to give him some fresh rubber for the finish. 4 good years, and that's all.
So just 4 of the 17 on the lead lap choosing to get the fresh rubber here. And again, the Junior from 10th place, the first one to come in.
Yeah, Junior was slipping backwards, so that was not a bad move for him. This car didn't like that last set of tire.
So fascinating run for Martin Truex Jr. running 3rd now in this 56. Remember, we were riding on board with him last week at Bristol when he was involved in that grinding crash in the late laps of the race when things happened in front of him involving Brian Vickers and Denny Hamlin, and he was swept into the wall hard in that 56 car. And the whip of that steering wheel breaking a bone in his right wrist.
Yeah, before he even had time to happen so quickly, didn't even have time to get his hands off the wheel.
So this on Truex's radio a minute ago.
Cast is destroyed. Like, I don't know what happened to it, but I can't feel it around my palm at all. Like, I think it melted.
10-4.
So he said his cast is destroyed. I know Rusty Wallace down in the Quicken Loans pit studio has some experience racing with a broken wrist in the past.
Well, I really do, Alan, and that's a tough thing racing with the cast. We were talking earlier about I got myself in a couple crashes when I tried to correct the car and my cast actually caught my seat belt and I spun the car out. It's a bad deal. But Martin, he has a regular cast.
Yeah, we were just talking in here. Maybe carbon fiber would be a better option, especially going into a short track next weekend.
Absolutely, and but I'll tell you what, if he wins this race tonight, I bet that wrist will feel it.
It'll be just fine, and he's one of those drivers that could definitely use another win. He's currently in 3rd. Right now, he's in the wild card spot, but a 2nd win would make him awfully safe.
Tell you what, he's doing a great job out there tonight. 3rd with a broken right wrist. I mean, this guy is really wheeling this thing. I really thought it would have gave him a lot more problem than he's dealing with right now, but you got to give him a good grade. And I got to tell you another thing you got to give a good grade to is Goodyear's tires. We talked about it in our countdown show, Brad. Yep. And this Goodyear zone tread technology is looking fantastic.
The tires have been outstanding. We've seen great racing. I'm so excited. Goodyear's done a great job. And I'll tell you what, Martin Truex Jr., he's looking out the window at that 24, and it's getting further and further behind him in his mirror.
Let's circle back around and talk more about that 56. What's up with them, Jamie Little?
They are fired up right now. All night long, all he said was, this car won't turn. It won't do anything I want it to do. Well, they made some adjustments on that last round of stops. A track bar adjustment. The car is good. It's coming to life. They almost won this race a year ago. They have the same setup. They're hoping to do it this time, Alan.
Jamie, that's what we'll tie up next. Martin led this race until a late caution set up a series of pit stops before a green-white checker. Denny Hamlin's crew got him the lead from Truex, and Martin had that dreaded outside front row restart spot, and it didn't work out.
Yeah, it hasn't gotten even better over the year, but wouldn't it be a little justice if Martin Truex were able to come in here injured and get that victory that he thought he was going to wrap up last year? It couldn't come at any better time than tonight, for sure.
Absolutely. He starts inside of row number 2, behind the Busch brothers. Kyle Busch and Kurt Busch, 1st and 2nd, then Truex and Juan Pablo Montoya in the next row. And how close it is.
Changes every lap.
Yep. And they've waved off the restart, by the way. You saw the lights just come back on the pace car.
Speaking of Truex, since 2012, no drivers earned more points on the mile-and-a-half tracks than Martin Truex. His team's done a great job.
So it'll be another lap, and that's going to leave us with 21 to go for the restart. Picking up a piece of debris out in the tri-oval. And so we'll get the one to go again here and come back at it in another lap. Well, we're down to that final 11 after we've wrapped this one up. Richmond next week to decide who makes the chase, and then the 10 that'll determine this year's champion, beginning at Chicagoland and New Hampshire and Dover and Kansas. Join us at the track. Some great racing still to be done in these final few months of the season. NASCAR.com/tickets or the number at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, look at those first 4 or 5 races. Richmond, great racetrack. Every driver loves that track, so that's going to be interesting. But those first 4 or 5 tracks are so different that start that chase, and just makes it a lot of fun to see which team's on top of their game, ready to go.
To pit road, and Dave.
Give credit to the 18 crew tonight. Crew Chief Dave Rogers has gotten that thing in the game. It's gone everywhere from plowing to so loose Kyle could hardly drive it, but he's got it to where it is very well balanced right now. They look good until the end of this race, Vince.
Hard to believe Crew Chief Todd Berrier on that 78 of Kurt Busch thought this was the worst they've been all season coming into this race. Kurt hadn't been happy with it during the race, but there they are. They're in position to win. They've got a pretty good race car right now when it counts, Alan.
Vince, thanks. Busch brothers on the front row with Martin Truex Jr. on that inside of the second row. And don't lose track of Joey Logano, who's on the outside in row 3, but might just find a way to make it 3 wide down in turns 1 and 2.
Truex
for the lead. Just couldn't make it stick. Kyle Busch holds on.
You are the man, buddy.
Kurt Busch all the way back to 5th place. Montoya and Ambrose get by him.
Yeah, that was pretty impressive what Kyle Busch was able to do to keep the lead right there.
Here comes Ambrose on the outside with a big run.
Wow, look at Kyle Busch. He really complained about his car, but he really struck out here. They're 3 wide off of turn 2.
Kurt Busch through the middle to 3rd place in the 78.
I tell you, that was an impressive pass right there. He actually threaded the needle right through the middle and took 2 spots.
You can see right there, Kurt Busch in that 78 really working the steering wheel coming off of turn 4, getting everything he can out of that car.
He's won twice here at this racetrack, so he knows how to get it done.
So there's the gap, 1st to 2nd.
I'm not sure Kyle Busch's car is good enough on the long run to hold these guys off, though. That's the one thing that they've been lacking tonight.
It's funny, as that 22 came into the picture, I was just about to start to say, and will we see that 22 car come alive again?
Well, it's not going to be that long a run. We've got 18 laps to go. We'll see if Kyle can hold on. Actually had the fastest last lap.
Joey Logano has led the most laps tonight, but got shuffled back and hasn't been able to get back to the front.
It's going to depend on how long it takes him to get by those cars, Newman and Ambrose and Montoya right there in front of him. Here's Gordon with those fresh tires trying to work his way back in contention up to the 8th spot. Logano to slide by right here. Oh, couldn't quite complete the pass. I think he'll get it done down here in 3 and 4, though.
Believe the 2 cars engine has just given up completely. Brad Keselowski off the pace while we watch Logano finish that pass for 5th. You'll see these leaders come past the slowing car of Brad Keselowski on the apron of turn 3. There it is.
And it almost held on for him. If it had, it would have saved him a lot of points and given him a chance next week. He's going to lose quite a few spots now, though.
Yeah, it's pretty much going to be a done deal now.
Well, look at Kurt Busch drive this car.
Yeah, he really is. He seems to be the one that could possibly get there and give his brother a little bit of trouble before this thing's over right now. I'm not going to count Logano out back there yet either.
I'm not going to count the caution not coming out again and changing the whole picture like it did last year.
Well, the tide's turned now. Logano does have the fastest car at this point. Does he have enough time to make up the distance that he is behind? He's got to make up a couple of seconds.
Yep, 1.9. What a gutty performance tonight from Truex in that 56. I don't have the experience of driving injured. You do. What a gutty performance.
Really, as I said earlier, you couldn't have found a more difficult racetrack to go to and having that happen. Rusty did a great job of explaining that a while ago of times that he had to battle through that. I've been through it myself. And Martin was talking about his cast melted. He probably broke that cast because it was a normal cast. Just the sheer gripping of the steering wheel here, the bouncing that you do inside the race car. See Gordon take another spot. Those new tires are really working for him. But my hat's off to Martin Truex for the job that he's done here tonight.
Kevin Harvick trying to follow Gordon and go by him, while Logano continues to eat in to the advantage of the cars in front of him.
See, Logano, fastest car last lap.
Kyle Busch not letting him gain a lot on him, though. Kyle really utilizing that clean air that he's got out in front of everybody.
How much might he get held up trying to get from where he is now in 4th up to 2nd by the 78 and 56?
Yeah, well, the 78's running Logano's line. His best bet's going to be able to get to his bumper. You can see Kurt Busch already loose on the exit of the corner. So that's how Logano's going to have to try to take advantage, not waste much time there.
10 laps to go. While you watch this, we check with Jamie.
Brad Keselowski out of the car, 15th in points right now. You guys were looking good there for a while. Can you describe what you're thinking and feeling right now about the chase?
I couldn't really hear you there, Jamie. My ears are ringing pretty bad. This thing was sounded so bad. I don't know if you had an in-car camera on it, but you know, just some things you can't control, and it was just one of those days where this was something we couldn't control, and it just broke. I guess you know, you look at the positives. We ran well. We were leading the race when we broke, doing all the right things, but we just didn't put all the pieces together. And I guess cheer on my teammate Joe Logano. He's looked really good. Hopefully he can get another shot at it.
You think you guys have a chance next week?
I mean, yeah. I mean, we had a chance this week, and you know, I feel like we'll be really strong next week. But obviously, we don't dictate our own fate.
All right. Well said, Brad Keselowski. Alan?
So Keselowski out. He's going to finish probably 35th tonight here in Atlanta. Well, Logano got to Kurt Busch, but hasn't been able to find a way around, and that stalled out his progress. And so while they continue to race for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, Kyle Busch continues to get closer to the checkered flag. '29 Harvick, 24 Gordon, 7th place.
Yeah, Gordon was coming pretty hard, but he got up to Montoya and hasn't been able to make that pass. Montoya's run kind of taking Jeff's line down in turns 1 and 2, and that slowed Jeff down, allowed Harvick to make the pass.
Net gain for Dale Jr. pitted from 10th. He's running 9th, trying to get 8th from Jeff Gordon, so the tire stop certainly worth it for that team. And Logano with a run. Can he finish the pass? He does. That's third place.
Time's running out for him.
And Kurt Busch couldn't afford to take a chance of Logano getting up there, making him lose, making a mistake now. He's got himself solidly inside the top 10 right at this moment. So just keep this thing going for the next 6 laps. And he'll be go to Richmond with an opportunity to stay inside that top 10.
Well, certainly a night of ups and downs for a lot of these drivers we're looking at right here. Logano had his troubles during the race. Truex at one point pitted a couple times, lost all of his track position. And Kurt Busch has slipped and slid around in this 78 car, but
5 to go.
Doing what they need to do with still that amount of time left in the race to try and position themselves for a run at the Chase next Saturday in Richmond.
Yeah, and still, you know, as nerve-wracking as part of this has been, that's only the tip of the iceberg compared to what they're going to feel next week as they go to Richmond.
Sixth place here, Gordon, Montoya.
The way they run right now, Jeff Gordon 7 points out of the top 10, so every one of these positions are going to mean something.
So just as we saw him last year, have to go to Richmond and literally drive his way in. That race, he's going to be facing the same kind of thing next year, next week.
Logano and Truex for second place. Just going to slide in front.
Nice pass.
What a drive tonight for Logano. Under the pressure of the bubble, the mistakes that were made that cost him track position a couple of times, but he's continued to hold his composure and drive that car back to the front. Our Goodyear superior performer tonight is Joey Logano. We could have given the Goodyear tire itself, the new Zone Tread tire, run on the right sides on this most demanding track. The Goodyear superior performer tonight also.
Oh, I'd say absolutely. It's passed with flying colors here tonight. You can see Logano has closed it down on Kyle Busch, but I think he's just going to run out of time.
Coming to the white flag. At times tonight, we've heard Kyle Busch on his radio struggling with the handling of his car. They kept working at it.
Certainly peaked at the right time there, didn't they?
And now he's coming to the white flag. We're one lap from the finish in Atlanta.
White flag, still 15. You won't get yet. Hit your mark.
Kyle says, historically, I've struggled at this track. I've been fast for 5 to 8 laps, and then I've had trouble. That's what we need to do to get better. Well, tonight, they struggled for maybe 200 laps.
Quite a few.
But they pulled it together when it counted most. He'll lock in a place in the Chase with a win in Atlanta. Kyle Busch takes the checkered flag tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
Nice comeback from a lap down from Matt Kenseth. 12th place. And
Atlanta has been defeated once again.
Oh, what a race. We saw so many different cars dominate at different times. And did not see this win coming for Kyle Busch until the very end. Carl Edwards looked like he was going to win there at one point.
Yeah.
He slipped way back. He finished 18th.
Looking down that list, we just saw Brian Vickers. Wasn't that long ago. He was sliding down through the grass and pit road, came back to finish 10th.
We're in the Chase.
you can argue with the referee.
Hey, what do you know?
And you can share a word of prayer with the team after a win. Yeah.
3/4 pounds on it, buddy.
That's one of the things that's going to make this team pretty dangerous whenever we talk about chase time too, is because they are capable of continuing to work. They've got obviously the crew chief and the crew, they do a great job. They've got a great pit crew, and they've got a driver that's not going to give up, not going to quit, and going to get everything out of the race car that there is to get.
Historically, the championship has been a struggle for Kyle for results over the years. I just sense there's something a little different this year.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I mean, certainly winning certainly helps a lot of that. But,
a hard-earned win in Atlanta for Kyle Busch. Soaking up the applause and taking home the checkered flag. The winner and some other post-race interviews coming up. Fourth win of the season for Kyle Busch. He's in victory lane at Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Officially the M&M's victory lane, the only one with projectiles. Okay, Sam's got the victory kiss now. And you got the victory, my friend, and you're in the chase. What's this feel like?
Whew. Heck of a lot different than 365 days ago, I'll tell you that much. But, man, I can't say enough about this team. And their work tonight definitely helped me out a lot. You know, I wasn't happy with the race car at all in the beginning of the race, but Dave and the guys made some really good calls and got us some great adjustments there tonight to get us back up front. This M&M's Camry wasn't good to start, but was good at the end and was good to get up front. Track position, my boys on pit road, man.
Last stop.
Yeah, what can I say? They're just, that's the same group since 2008. They're amazing. I love those guys. I'd do anything for them. And this M&M's Camry was awesome today. Can't say enough about Interstate Batteries, Snickers, Toyota, of course, Sprint. Without their support being here, we appreciate Sprint and the fans, whether you're on TV or whether they were here tonight. That's pretty awesome of them. And one other friend of mine from the Nationwide Series, this is his last weekend this weekend, Bill Whalen with the NASCAR officials. And he's 75 years old, been around for a long time. We love you, Bill, and we're going to miss you, man.
Team 18, the victory at Atlanta, and they charge into the chase. Alan?
It was that pit stop with just about 35 to go that put Kyle from third to first. Got in the track position.
Yeah,
that pit crew was on all night long.
Well, we talk about this being a team sport so much, everything that it took. That team, they weren't the best car by any means for a lot of this race, but they got the job done.
So here's the picture with Richmond looming next Saturday night. The top 6 are locked in to the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. The final 4, plus the 2 wild cards, still to play out. So 10 drivers for 6 places in that one race at Richmond.
It's going to be a fun night. It'll be a lot of pressure, though.
Kasey Kahne guaranteed at least a wild card, by the way, because he's got 2 wins and there's only 1 race left to go. More post-race reaction now. Downstairs to Vince.
Joey Logano brings it home second tonight, despite the fact he led the most laps. I know it wasn't the victory that you wanted, but in the big picture, you went up 2 more spots in the championship standings, took another step closer to the chase. How do you assess the evening that you had tonight?
Like you said, big picture is great. I just feel like I had the race-winning Ford here. The Shell Penzo Ford was so fast. It just took it 7-8 laps to get going. And when I restarted third here behind Kyle, I just didn't give myself enough room for when he spun his tires. I got pinned in at 56, put me 3 wide, and I was kind of in trouble at that point. And go all the way back to 6 and then have to work your way back up. I just wish it was 5 or 6 more laps. You catch them so quick and you're passing all these guys. And it made it a lot of fun because we overcame a loose wheel earlier, but it's just frustrating. But in the grand scheme of things, big points day for us to get this thing in the chase going into Richmond next week, and this will help us a lot. So a win would have helped us a lot more, but overall, Ty Gordon, all the guys here did a great job today. It's gonna be great.
Big picture kind of night for Joey Logano. He's second.
A decent night for Jeff Gordon, bringing in home 6, but still, as we go into the final race of the regular season, you're just outside the top 10, 6 points back. How do you look at things going into next week?
Well, I'm more focused on tonight right now. You know, we had an excellent drive in Hunger Chevrolet, and it just got away from us a little bit. You know, the track changed quite a bit, and we just couldn't battle up there up front for the lead, you know, and for the win like I really thought we could have. So I was a little disappointed in that, but great effort. by the whole team all weekend long. And we'll take, the momentum of these last two decent finishes and solid runs with fast race cars and take it to Richmond and see what we can do.
Nice run and best of luck next week.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I mean, I'm having fun. These last couple of weeks we've been battling and passing and having a great time out there. And, that's all we can ask for. And we didn't do enough of that earlier in the year. That's why we're in the position we're in.
Jeff Gordon has been in this position before. Remember last year? It was awfully dramatic for the 24 team qualifying for the chase in the closing laps at Richmond. He could do that again.
Well, a long 500 miles, a hard 500 miles tonight. Different drivers moving up and dropping back all throughout the night. This race really had a lot of ebbs and flows, and in the end, Kyle Busch was hottest when it counted most.
Yeah, and that's what counts, and especially in these long races, getting your car right whenever it matters. Impressed with him, his race team, a lot of others, but most impressed with the race tire that Goodyear brought here.
Yeah, it was just up and out night for so many people, and for Kyle Busch, he just happened to peak at the exact right time, and he's celebrating in victory lane.
The weekend next weekend at Richmond. Friday night, the Nationwide Series here on ESPN. Friday night at 7 Eastern Time. And the Chase deciding race on ABC next Saturday night at 7 Eastern Time from the beautiful three-quarter-mile track in Richmond, Virginia. Sports Center's coming up next with more post-race coverage from here at Atlanta, including a look ahead to that Richmond race and what we can expect in that final race to decide who's in the chase. Joey Logano led a lot. Carl Edwards led a lot. Clint Bowyer led a lot tonight. Bowyer wound up in the garage with engine failure. Logano had some struggles and had to settle for second. In the end, it was Kyle Busch who came to the front late and scored his 4th win of the season and claimed his place in the chase. So long from Atlanta.